Okay, we are live on YouTube.
All right. Hey, everybody, live on YouTube. I guess we'll start with radar scope.
Probably a good place to start.
We got myself, I'm Mark Sudduth. We got CJ and CJ Morgan. You know, it's funny, I know you as CJ, and I almost forgot your last name.
Not important.
And Matt
Semantics.
and Matt Harding. So we got Wilmington, North Carolina, and you're in Venice, CJ,
Mm-hmm.
and Matt Harding over in Wichita,
Yes.
Kansas.
Yes, where we're choking on dirt today. West wind driven dirt.
Yeah,
Awful out.
you said you had a pretty strong wind gust earlier today. What was that all about, Matt?
On the back side of the low, right before the cold front came through, we measured a 64 mile per hour wind gust at the Eisenhower National Airport. And it was, I work in a building about a half mile north of the actual airport itself, and the building groaned. So
I know what
we're,
that sounds like.
yeah, it's
Ditto.
unmistakable sound, but when you hear it, you know it, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, definitely one of the side effects, if you will, of this large storm system today that is producing what will be a pretty nasty day, severe weather-wise, is the wind. And on the back side of it, in a drought, you get a lot of wind and you get a lot of dust.
Pass.
All right. So CJ, we're live on YouTube and we're on Facebook as well, sir.
Yes, sir. We are rocking and rolling.
All right. Just trying to check it here. We're just doing some testing. This will come in handy during hurricane season for sure. Yeah, look at that. Nope, I don't see it yet actually on live. Let's see. So we're gonna experiment on you folks today. You're gonna be our guinea pigs. Yeah, I don't see it on my YouTube feed. Let me ask. Oh, there it is. Maybe. Nope, that's somebody else.
I got it on my TV. It was the first thing under recommended for me.
That is very weird. It's my channel and I don't see it.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Yeah,
whatever.
well,
As long as let me ask the other Matt in Colorado just to make sure he sees it. But anyway, we're going to do a couple of hours of some live coverage. We know there's a lot of live coverage going on the internet. Some good, some not so good, and hopefully we'll be somewhere in between. And really just good practice because CJ and Matt are going to handle things during hurricane season, during landfalls. And I'm not out there chasing today. I've got a lot of prep work that I've got to do for the National Hurricane Conference coming up next week down in New Orleans. And so I'm not out there. And, you know, I guess that's fine because these are some fast-moving, very dangerous storms. I'm seeing Twitter really lighting up here. This is looking at Twitter now. Taylor Trogdon, a good friend of mine, used to be in the National Hurricane Center. Rapidly strengthening supercell he's talking about there, past north of Little Rock. I mean, my feed is basically, most of it's weather. It's all tornado stuff. Look at that close-up there. My goodness. So let's just start back at the beginning. We'll go to Matt. What set up today's event overall? How did we get here?
Well, this is a pretty strong. Well, we have this Bermuda high that has just been anchored off the East Coast really for much of the winter, and it's been driving moisture north. We've had repeated cold fronts come through and kind of beat the moisture back, but really we've had 2 to 3 days of solid winds, 25 to 40 miles an hour, driving the moisture north, really far north for where it would be normally. This is probably, if you think about it, for Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, places like that, this is more June. This is typically down in the deep south. This is the core of their spring severe weather season, so it's actually quite typical there. But huge wind field with this storm, strengthening low pressure coming out, and unfortunately, it's a day where all of the wind fields line up at just the right time. We have the main parent low pressure center beginning to come out through Missouri now, and we're going to see here in the next couple of hours Iowa, Illinois, as well as parts of Wisconsin and Indiana light up rather with substantial tornado warnings. We're going to continue to see that further to the south as well. As Mark alluded to, we've had a tornado go through West Little Rock here within the last 30 minutes. Don't know if it took, I don't believe it took out the radar, but it came really close to the Weather Service radar in Little Rock. And as a matter of fact, the Weather Service in Memphis had to issue warnings for the Little Rock office while they were taking cover. So it has been a hairy day already, and if nothing else happens the rest of the day, and it's already been bad enough. But unfortunately, we have a very long way to go on this, as many more population centers are going to be impacted later today and tonight.
Look at this. You can actually see the supercells on the visible satellite here. Some of these coming out of eastern Texas, into western Arkansas, and then the other ones are embedded here deeper in the clouds, and then even more up here in northern Missouri. So real quick, CJ, when we talk about supercells, what is a supercell? That's not just a made-up storm chaser term, is it? I think we lost. There he is, CJ.
Yeah, okay, there we are. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, awesome. So a supercell thunderstorm is basically a thunderstorm that rotates. Just to give it as simple of a definition as possible, and you need that rotation to be extended the whole way to the surface from the mid to upper levels of our atmosphere. And how do you get that? Wind energy. So that's the changing of wind's directions with height, and it causes the thunderstorms to rotate. When you get these thunderstorms, they are updrafts primarily that creates the condensation that falls back to earth as rain. So what that does is when you have these supercell thunderstorms, it takes those updrafts and basically coils them up into the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that is what in essence is able to produce the tornado.
Yeah, it's like a pencil. I heard this on a documentary once. It's like a pencil rolling across a tabletop, and that's the atmosphere. It's rolling, and then you take a vertical convection through that, and you're able to bend that rolling atmosphere into the vertical. It tightens up through a lot of different weird processes, and you get these tornadoes eventually from these rotating thunderstorms. So
right,
it's the shear, and you would think of shear in hurricanes as being detrimental, but
right.
you need shear in the atmosphere to drive these supercells. Kind of an ironic situation there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's weird how our atmosphere works, because when you look at a hurricane, it's much more of a mesoscale structure, whereas you get down into the or a synoptic scale almost structure, because it's influenced by these weather patterns that could be over half the globe, right. Whereas tornadoes are such on a small scale. Realistically only the diameter maybe about 100 kilometers will make the difference. And in this case, these supercells have a lot of energy to work with. This is probably one of our most robust systems that we've had come through the country in probably a good 2 years.
So, Matt, in Iowa, I've seen a few chasers up there on social media. There's no leaves on the trees. It looks very winter-like out there. It's very barren still. I don't think I saw snow on the ground or anything like that. But, it's kind of different. We're not used to seeing... Is this early is kind of what I'm getting at. Is this pretty early for Iowa?
Yes. And this has been kind of the hallmark of the weather systems that we've seen so far this year. You were up in South Dakota earlier in the winter season for a blizzard up there, and that was one of those storms, those Colorado lows, if you will, that really develop on the front range of the Rockies and just kind of hook off to the northeast. Today's low is similar to that, and we'll see another one on Tuesday that will get up into the same area. So yes, it is early to see Iowa in that part of the world kind of activate with severe weather. You're right, it is foreign to see no leaves on the trees, and yet you have tornadoes going up there in a part of the world that is probably still looking at snow.
Right.
It's pretty foreign to see that.
So it's interesting looking at the 500 millibar chart here over at Tropical Tidbits. Most of the energy in the atmosphere you would think is way back here over Oklahoma and Kansas near you, Matt, but the storms are sitting out here well ahead of that. That's a whole severe weather class. CJ, how come that's the case? You would think that the energy way back behind would be what triggers these. You've had some severe weather education. I think you were at Penn State for a little bit.
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, it's really fascinating that it's way out in front of this main energy here that we see that rotates across at that 500 millibar level. Why is that? Can you shed some light there?
Honestly, I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to be, really honest here, but if I can surmise, it's going to be, just the sheer amount of energy you have in that warm sector, because what you're seeing there, that you've circled over to the left side of the screen, that is essentially the cold front that's going to dive down and really force these temperatures. I mean, they're talking about a blizzard on the back half of this for some of the high plains.
Right.
So, I mean, you have this lifting force that, yes, is actually going to provide some lift to the atmosphere that's going to force ascent as, that cold front swings down and through. But out ahead of it, you actually have a warm front, and that's noted by that. You see that helicity up in the top there kind of extending like a small hill up and away to the right.
Right.
And that moisture that feeds up into that warm sector, which is where you get the most amount of shear and the most amount of lift, because you have temperatures that are going to be up in the upper 70s in some places, with dew points, especially like in Arkansas, approaching 70 degrees, which is, typical for the South. But I mean, for this time of year, this is something that you would expect further down into the South towards Dixie Alley, like, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, right, Georgia, like we saw last week in Mississippi, unfortunately. But, you have those ingredients in place. And then as that front begins to swing through, which we'll see later on into this afternoon, and that's where you're kind of seeing that, that initial line start to form.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to see that line of supercells that's going to kind of swing through and across. That's the cold front. That's that forced ascent, from the atmosphere, that's actually forcing that warm air to rise up and over and then eventually come back down.
So we see these very strong southwesterly winds, 50 plus knots up here. Some of these are 100 knots. I mean, look at that. The triangle's 50 knots, right? It's been a while since.
Yeah.
So very strong southwesterly winds at about 18 to 20,000 feet, 500 millibars in the atmosphere. So let's go look down towards the surface here. So this is 5,000 feet, still southwesterly, but down at the surface, I think this will just let me do this. So it looks like everything's generally aligned. So at some point, though, you got to have some backing. Matt Harding, where would that be? Where would I look for that? Because if everything's aligned, it's not gonna. You don't have shear.
Yeah. If everything's unidirectional, you're coming out of one direction. You're gonna have a squall line, basically.
Right.
You're looking for the backing. You probably want to look at the 850 millibar layer or even the 925 millibar layer of the atmosphere. The closer you get to the ground, you want those winds to be more backed. In this situation, you want them more backed to the southeast or even the east-southeast. There is the closer you get to the low pressure center.
Right.
There. So the more backing you have, the more of that twist that you see in the atmosphere, or that you look for in a hodograph. You can see that twist in the atmosphere, kind of that barber pole presentation when you see supercells out here in the plains, that's all related to the backing of the winds in the lowest 5,000 feet of the atmosphere.
Well, CJ touched upon next week. Let's scroll out and look ahead to next Tuesday. There's another piece of energy that starts to swing through out of Colorado. This is Tuesday afternoon through Wednesday. Let's see what the SPC says for next week real quick. I know we're focusing on today as well, but the day 4, looks like it's about at day 5, so that's going to be valid on Tuesday. So it's interesting. The main energy looks like it's back here, but the severe threat is pretty much where we are today, maybe a little bit farther to the west. Just an interesting setup overall, very dynamic. This is Tuesday afternoon into early Wednesday morning, like 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. Kind of rinse and repeat. There's that energy. Big old trough. Look at that thing. A majority of the energy back here over Kansas, But that's where the severe threat is for next week. We're going to kind of do it again. All right, let's go back over to radar scope real quick. Got a text from our friend Matt in Colorado that we have a pretty good hook echo going on here in Arkansas. Let's go back to that real quick. CJ, you're pretty adept at the radar scope. Why don't you take over for a minute?
Okay, give me 1 second.
You guys while you guys are doing that, I think one of the supercells you're talking about is in the Little Rock area, and they are under their second tornado warning of the afternoon. And that storm is again going to pass very similar to the track of the tornado that went through West Little Rock about 45 minutes ago. And that's going to be along just to the south of Jacksonville, and it'll be headed up toward Griffithville here over the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, looking at a tweet from Fox Weather here within the last minute. As CJ looks at the radar, I'll just read this out. Storm chaser Brian M. Finger, one of the best out there, and he lives in Arkansas. The buildings have been damaged and trees knocked down from a tornado in Little Rock.
Yep.
And so, yeah, these are starting to produce damage. And we're just getting started. It's early in the day, unfortunately.
Right. No, and I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway is, I mean, it's 3:00. What, 3? Not even 3:30 Central Time.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're, even though two of us are in the Eastern time zone, we've got to think, where this is happening. And, now that I look at these, luckily, I can say that the structure, just the velocity couplets, are not as impressive on that first storm. Not as impressive as they were when it came through Little Rock. And you see a lot of broadening, but we're also well within the cone of silence. This passed within miles of the radar site there for the National Weather Service in North Little Rock. So it's going to be a few minutes until this passes it by and we can actually see the full presentation there. But I mean, the energy, I just want to draw a point that these storms are moving at 55, 60 miles an hour. This one's moving at 50. The one that just went through Little Rock, only a couple of minutes ago, was moving east at 60.
Good grief.
Yeah. So these are racing literally down I-40 at highway speeds. So, and that's a very stereotypical, if you want to say, property of these storms, especially in the southern United States versus up in the plains. You typically, Matt, you could expect to have a tornado moving at 20 to 25 miles an hour for the most part. And then, you're talking double that. And that's what we're kind of looking at here. I'm also not seeing, at least not anymore, there's too much noise with this correlation coefficient. I'm not seeing a large, anything popping out at me per se.
Right. Well, that's good news.
Which is good.
Right.
I just want to say this. We're talking about storms traveling at highway speeds today. I've actually chased early season setups out here on a high risk day, and one of the days that stands out to me is in the early 2010s, where we were chasing in early April and storms were moving at 70 miles an hour even out here. And it's more that you don't chase it, you just go to a spot ahead of the storm and let the storm come to you, and then can play downstream about 5 to 10 miles of the storm, because it's only going to be there. It's going to pass you or be there at your location in about 5 minutes. So that's probably the chase strategy today for a lot of the chasers that we're seeing out in the field this afternoon and this evening. I would just, if it were me and I were chasing, I probably would just be at home. If you were actually out here, you probably would just stay at home. There's no point in going out and chasing storms and moving at 70.
Let's go up to Peoria, Illinois, if you could, please, CJ. Matt from Colorado saying we got a tornado issue there. So early in the year, they tend to move fast like this. I know they slow down as we get into May. Wow, look at the hail on that sucker. Wow.
It's a really good signature. Hold on, I'm going to try to get in and see what we're dealing with.
Late May, they start to slow down, and you can even get them moving only at like 10 to 20 knots, at the fastest. I've seen them out there in Kansas in late May, Memorial Day of 2004. You can almost outrun the supercells, but early like this is another reason why I didn't want to go out there today. It's just like, I don't have a good experience. I don't have experience intercepting or chasing, or whatever you want to call it, fast moving supercells, and you can get yourself into trouble. You really can. And so I was like, forget that.
So
Uh,
it looks like this one. Sorry to cut you off, Matt. This one's moving um, northeast of 50. So this is a tornado warning for Woodford County, northeastern Tazewell, and north central McLean. And at least I hope that's how they say it in central Illinois. They're saying hail up to 2 inches in diameter in the warning mark. So yeah, that's definitely what you're seeing there with that giant. And you actually look at the correlation coefficient, you can see the hail spike right here.
Right. Yeah, I'm fascinated by hail, as some of my colleagues know. And something about it. I mean, I've been in one pretty significant hail event, and that was with Brent back in 2021. But 2 inches, I mean, that's pretty damaging there, especially, Matt, that hail can start blowing sideways when you get some of these stronger gusts, can't it?
Yeah, especially on that backside of the hook there. You're probably getting wind-driven hail there, probably up to 2 inches in diameter. I think they did have 2-inch hail reported on that storm. So west and north-facing houses there, just to the northeast of Peoria, look out, because that's going to be some gnarly stuff here over the next few minutes. And you're right. Hailstorms are just really loud by comparison, but you get wind-driven hail. That's just its own beast in and of itself. It's pretty nasty for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it makes things really difficult for people trying to deal with it. Whether they're trying to see what's going on or, just the hail. Interesting on one hand, but very destructive on the other. And I see, it's also, we're on March 31st here, and we're getting these big hail events. I typically think of hail on very warm days when you have a lot of the steep lapse rate. Talk a little bit about whichever one. We'll start with Matt. We'll quiz Matt. We hear about these steep lapse rates. What does that mean for the layman person out there?
So if you're looking at a lapse rate, you're looking at the degree of instability that the atmosphere has. We can use CAPE to measure the amount of instability that the atmosphere has. You can also look at it in terms of lapse rates, like what is the degree of the air being advected or moved into the area as part of the low pressure center strengthening. So we're seeing lapse rates today of 7 to 8 degrees Celsius per kilogram, which are pretty big, which is for this time of the year, is a significant indicator for large hail over a wide area. And then on top of that, you have the wind shear as well. So we're getting good venting of the column because we have such strong wind shear in the atmosphere, and that is really able to get the droplets of water up to a pretty high rate. And you're able to repeat that cycle numerous times over the lifespan of a hailstone.
Yeah, I see that often when I read the discussions about steep lapse rates, and I think of it myself as kind of steep versus a shallow or a less amplified lapse rate. And when you see those steep lapse rate days, you often see that mention of large to destructive hailstones. And I'm just trying to see why my radar scope is loading so slowly. Maybe everybody's home from school here in Wilmington, and my fiber is down to 3G speeds. Come on, radar scope.
If it makes you feel better, mine does it from time to time too. I think everybody is just pounding their servers.
That's true. I got to remember. Yeah, this is a high risk day in two areas.
Yes, it is.
A huge moderate. Wow, look at that. I mean, these are fascinating to see, but we just can't build our structures and infrastructure to withstand, Category 4 type hurricane winds and up, which is what these stronger tornadoes do. If we were completely resilient against these, it would be a lot more, I guess, exciting. Because we could watch these and not worry about them as much. But unfortunately, even 100-mile-per-hour wind in a lesser built home, and we're talking about vehicles too, can really cause problems. But it is a really fascinating event in the atmosphere that just has that very dark side of causing damage and, unfortunately, the loss of life. I mean, what we saw in Mississippi very recently, just horrifying. It really is, and especially that those happened at night. So that leads me to this. And CJ, what are the odds that this really goes on into the after dark hours tonight? Because that's when it just becomes the stuff of nightmares.
I think it's very likely. I mean, we're still at a period of the year where, the sun still sets. I mean, you're talking in most of these parts of the country around, 7, 8 o'clock. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that we're still dealing with storms that are tornadic well into the evening, especially as the line approaches maybe, the I-65 corridor.
Right.
I think that we're still going to be dealing with tornadic supercells. Maybe not as many, maybe not as, well, then again, I can't even say, because that's why they brought out the moderate risk all the way out to Indianapolis.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be watching. The National Weather Service is going to be watching these as they, kind of race off to the east, and they approach that I-65 corridor. That's really going to be the, telltale sign. How fast does all of this, reach? Because, I mean, in reality, what you're seeing in, from Davenport down to, Peoria, that's all because of the warm front. The cold front, like we said earlier, is way out still in portions of, Iowa, Missouri, down into parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. So we still have, a little ways to go yet. So
Yeah.
it's not out of the realm of possibility. No, I don't think it isn't.
Look at that moderate. Like you said, it goes all the way into Indiana, and that's hours from now. Wow.
Almost. Yeah, almost the Indiana-Ohio state line.
Yeah.
So you're talking, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, those areas, it's not going to get there until well after dark. And then even in the enhanced risk, I've seen enhanced risk days, overachieve.
Sure.
Per se, and I think, once it gets to Nashville and, maybe Cincinnati, Dayton, I think that northern edge they were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, I think they were talking about it more or less becoming more of a high wind issue into the evening, late evening, early, tomorrow morning as it gets into Ohio and Indiana. But I think especially in those southern, around that southern fringe, they're going to have, the temperatures and the dew points necessary to really fuel
Look at
that
this.
event.
Tornado watch, tornado warnings, winter storm, and blizzard. Not even
bordering each other.
Yeah, I mean, that is remarkable.
And
just wow.
And I also want to take a second to acknowledge all of those high wind advisories and wind warnings, especially as you get into the northern part of the Appalachians.
Through here, yeah.
Through West Virginia and my home stomping ground, southwestern Pennsylvania. You look at that. I mean, they're talking. I think I saw 40 to 50 mile an hour winds and wind gusts. That's more than enough to bring down trees and power lines. It's funny. We would get these storms growing up, these wind storms. It wouldn't even be. We wouldn't have storms. We'd have these wind storms in the earlier part of March, and I can think, we would lose power, trees would come down. We almost lost our pole in one of them one year. So it's definitely going to cause some problems. So it's not over tonight just because the tornado threat wanes into tomorrow. They're still going to be dealing with some high winds, heavy rain, that kind of deal. And I believe there's a slight risk for almost all of the Northeast, the northern part of the Mid-Atlantic states.
So we have wind advisories covering all of this area through here, high wind warnings in the darker brown. But let's not ignore what's going on behind all of this mess.
Right.
Matt's neck of the woods. There's some fire risk to this because it's been so dry and your dew points are low. Let's talk about that, because fire weather is severe weather.
Yes. I've been out with the local National Weather Service office doing presentations for storm spotters as we've gone through the last couple of months. And the one thing that we tell them is, or the one thing that the Weather Service tells the folks who attend, is that fire weather is just the same as severe weather. And you're absolutely right. And we have just earlier this afternoon, northeast of Wichita, where I'm at, we had a large fire on the west side of a town called El Dorado, there in Butler County. We have 2 large fires going on northeast of Oklahoma City this afternoon. And this is an area in that D3, D4 drought, which needs every bit of rain it can get. and folks out here are praying that the pattern flips from La Nina to El Nino quickly, so we can get things to kind of reset out here. But when that happens, we just don't know. But until then, we're going to continue with these fire and wind issues because it has been such a bone dry winter.
Yes, I mean, just the contrast here and what we're seeing, how the storm tracks have been these last several years, and really the lack of sustained, repeated severe weather in the traditional Tornado Alley area. We've seen some. There was some pretty dramatic video last year from Wichita, from Reed Timmer, from a drone near Andover, right? And so there's been some highlight moments, but it really seems to have shifted east and south in the last, I'm going to say 10 years or so, certainly going all the way back to 2011 with the very infamous late April, even mid to late April, April 16th, April 27th. And that's a whole other issue, a story for another day perhaps, as to why we're seeing that. But yeah, the drought seems to beget more drought, unfortunately. So hopefully we can get some rain, even if it comes with a little bit of severe weather. We'll get some rain out your way. And it's good. I talk about it being good out west. You need it. Water is a very, very valuable resource, but, the nation's midsection, the winter wheat, other. I'm not an agricultural weather expert, but it just seems logic would dictate that the drier it is, the worse it is for the breadbasket of America.
Yeah, and it's going to take it's not going to take one system that will do it. It will take multiple systems to get us out of this drought. And I've talked to several meteorologists who work in the National Weather Service who've told me this is just not going to be like a dimmer switch where we actually go into it. It's going to be a hard on and a hard off,
right? Just
like the light switch on in a room. So we'll know it. We'll see it when the pattern begins to flip. Unfortunately, the severe weather that we have off to our east and the rain that comes with it is something that we need out here sorely. Don't need the severe weather, obviously.
Right.
It would be nice for the weather geeks among us, but we need the rain out here desperately. We're actually going to have probably our third to fifth driest March ever for all of the reporting stations in Kansas. When the month ends later today. So it's phenomenal how dry it is out here, and March is typically one of our wetter months.
What you got, CJ? You said, wow. Was it from what Matt was saying, or did you get something else?
There's videos surfacing already of this tornado that went through Little Rock. I just mentioned I found one on Twitter, just kind of scrolling through, and this is just wow. I mean, it's nothing like, it's not gigantic by any means or anything like that. It's just
still impressive.
First off, the speed.
Yeah.
And, if you can pull it up for a second, Mark, this is from near Chanel Parkway in Little Rock.
Who do we, who can I follow it on Twitter? I want to pull it up on Twitter real quick.
It's,
who's got it?
I will send you their tag. But the gentleman's name is Buster.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until everybody can be verified.
Right.
So there it is.
It's going to cost $1,000 a month starting tomorrow.
Right.
So.
Yeah, look at that. That's pretty fast there. Wow. All right, so
CJ, and it reminds you of how fast those tornadoes were moving during the super outbreak, as well as even last week.
Right.
Something that I want to point out here while we have this video up is if you look at the tornado, you can kind of see the clouds on the outside of the tornado. They're horizontal. Those are called horizontal bands that actually go in, and there's some studies out there that actually show that those will actually help tighten up the tornado, make it stronger. We saw that in the the Moore tornado in 1999, where there were
Yeah.
horizontal those rolling bands on the outside of the tornado, bringing more and more moisture in. You saw it in Tuscaloosa as well as
That's exactly where my head goes whenever I
Yeah.
think horizontal vortices. That or
Yep.
Katie Winniewood.
yeah.
Yeah.
You saw it also in Coleman in that tornado
Right.
in 2011 there as well. So this is no doubt a strong tornado as it made its way through West Little Rock about an hour ago.
Wow.
Right. And when you see those horizontal vortices, Matt, you really know the shear is kind of maxing, and we see them very often down here. Well, if you can even see it at all in the south, because typically our storm mode is low top but high shear, right? So you get those intense shear values down here. It's remarkable that you can see those those horizontal vortices just kind of corkscrewing around as they go up the funnel. It's amazing. But like I said, before, that's kind of why I just looked at it and went, wow. I mean, you can see the whole entire base of that storm is rolling. I mean, it's just going.
CJ,
And these are going to be cyclical, I think,
Right.
too, at this point.
CJ, go ahead and grab the radar scope if you would, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
And let's look at some of these warnings that are down here. We've got 2 in Arkansas at the moment. Let's just see what's going on with those.
Yep. So we still have that same cell that produced another storm or another another tornado warning for the Little Rock area. The
Looks like
original
it's-
cell is way up here
Yeah.
and kind of fizzled out at this point.
That one looks like it's trying to tighten back up.
Yep. Yes, it does. And this is kind of what I meant by, these storms are going to be cyclical in in the sense that they're going to drop a tornado. They're going to, tornado will lift, it'll broaden out for a moment, and then it'll tighten back up and drop another tornado. Some of them will drop tornadoes that are going to be, on the ground for a decent amount of time. I'm not seeing anything too, alarming by the velocity couplets on here yet.
Right.
Let me see if anything's been observed yet. No, this is just still radar indicated rotation. Yeah, nothing, not even any hail there. And then we have another tornado warning. Did it just... Nope, there it is. Way down in southwest Arkansas. This is almost, directly due north of Texarkana.
Right.
This would be Shreveport's WFO, I think. Yeah. So this is near Mineral Springs, Arkansas. And wow, look at well, this is also going to be hitting it quite high up in the atmosphere, but near, is that Tillette, I think is the name of the town, is right near where it's kind of going over at this point. And again, radar indicated rotation, but max hail size 1.5 inches. That's ping pong ball size hail. And that's why
Wow.
you're seeing this pretty good
That storm has a
hail core right there.
Arkadelphia. Storm is headed toward Arkadelphia here over the next hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's
then
just going to keep racing off to the north and east. Oh,
Then there are more storms down northeast of Waco, south of Dallas
Yeah.
this afternoon. So,
yeah, I mean, these tornado watches, they literally span from just north of Bryan and College Station the whole way north up
Yeah,
to
look at that.
Milwaukee and Madison and Wisconsin.
Chicago.
I mean,
Metro
yeah.
Chicago is in the tornado watch, one of those up there. Milwaukee. We've got a camera up there. Let me jump on that real quick. I'm gonna grab the.
I'm gonna let it.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm gonna go over to our. Let's see. I gotta figure out how to do this. So if it's live, people are gonna see my password.
Yes. So why don't we do this real quick, Mark? Give me 1 second.
I want to get the Fox Lake.
We're gonna go ahead and transition it just to. There you go. So you got some time.
All right, let me pull that up real quick. I want to see the Fox Lake. Get that one queued up. I mean, what are the odds? We see a tornado on our Fox Lake cam, courtesy of a friend of one of our supporters, Chris, out in Washington State. Live cameras.
I know you guys were talking about the stuff east of Little Rock, and that's a nasty supercell there north of Interstate 40. But folks in Little Rock should look to their west because here it comes again. storms are starting to wrap up to the southwest of Mayflower and just south of Hot Springs Village there. And both of those would have tracks that would take it into Little Rock, West Little Rock again over the next 30 to 60 minutes.
Wow.
So we could be looking at not for sure, but it is possible that we could be looking at another tornado in the Little Rock area sooner rather than later. And that area has been hit hard already today, twice.
All right, I got Fox Lake queued up. We can pull it up if needed. I just think it's interesting that, and we'll watch that. We'll watch, see if anything heads up there.
Because those storms that went through Peoria, they're going to head up and be knocking on the doorstep of Chicagoland here, not too far from now. So, what I am going to do though for you guys here in a second, I am going to go get a mouse because trying to use a trackpad with Parsec is just not a fun time. So, I will be right back.
Let's see, where is Fox Lake on here? Looking on my iPhone. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on that. Wouldn't that be? There's a few cells out there. That's a nice wide shot. This is what Fox Lake looks like, by the way, folks. This is our a camera. This is, again, from one of our supporters, Chris Palmer, out in Washington State. He's got a friend who set up a Nest Cam out on this lake at a recreation area. So it's got a nice shot. I think we're looking off to the east-northeast, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll watch and see. You never know. Get a tornado or a supercell or whatever that goes across this area. Our one camera that's in the region that's permanently active there. I don't want to say we get lucky because that would be unlucky for them, but you get what I'm saying.
It is. That would be the shot of shots. There.
Yeah, just wow. So we're just getting started. I mean, tomorrow's April 1st, and I was thinking today, don't want to make light of anything, but, the expression march in like a lion and out like a lamb or something like that. I think it's in like a lion and out like Godzilla. Seriously. Like just trashing the place because it's been just awful what we have seen. It just we started off very busy. The atmospheric rivers. I mean, dude, we had a tornado in eastern Los Angeles County. How quickly we have forgotten that, so to speak. I mean, the 400 inches plus of snow. Some areas 800 inches in the Sierra. Hurricane-like wind with an eye wall-looking structure just a couple of weeks ago in San Francisco in the Bay Area. It was like right out of the Day After Tomorrow. We're going Hollywood level on some of these storms. It really is starting to seem that way, and this is all just in the last 31 days. We're going to get warmer as we get into April and into May, so the dynamics are actually going to get stronger, aren't they, Matt? I mean, we're just starting out.
Yeah, and when you put it in that context, it's kind of scary to think of what April could bring because now you're not only at the peak of the tornado season in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, now you're beginning to move that west. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas if it ever rains again, southern Nebraska. Right. Now you're getting into that area as well with the higher tornado impact period beginning for this part of the country, and we just continue to see these powerful storms move on the west coast and then out into the plains and just really bomb out. If you are looking at the forecast charts, I think I saw the Euro the other day print the Tuesday system at 971 millibars.
Gosh.
Wow.
That's the equivalent of a category 2 hurricane?
2, yeah, easily. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're taking category 2 pressures and putting them over parts of the country that don't see it a whole lot in a whole bunch of severe weather and all of that. So yeah. If you are looking at it as a whole, holistically, the month of April could be quite frightening in that regard. It's when you look at severe weather, the potential, at least for it anyway, we could end up having a pretty nasty spring here.
Yeah, I mean the snowpack is going to start melting. You can actually watch me try to compose a tweet here. That's funny. I forgot that everybody can see what I'm doing. I don't think I'm going to tweet that. I try to stay pretty straight and narrow and not. Yeah, I mean, humor is good sometimes, but yeah, what's the point, right? Sometimes I do that and like, yeah, don't tweet that. Take this more seriously. But to that end there, Matt, what's coming for April and May could be quite dramatic because we're just going to warm things up, and it's that warming of the ground. The sun warms the ground warms the air, and we're just going to increase. Basically, as we get through April and May, the CAPE just goes up naturally. Climatologically speaking, there's more CAPE in the atmosphere, more energy. So, yikes.
So, Mark, I'm going to commandeer the radar for a second. We got an interesting cell in
Matt.
Iowa. Sorry, don't mean to.
That's all right.
And
breaking news from CJ. We'll let him jump in.
I want to focus in on, look at these two cells here, especially this gate-to-gate shear here. And that actually looks like it has a tornado on the ground right here.
Yeah, you would think so.
So, and this is in, I want to say near Washington, Iowa, is what I saw. So yeah, this is a damaging tornado. Weather spotters confirmed with baseball-size hail.
Ouch.
And it's moving northeast at 55.
Good grief.
So Matt, I know you've been out in the field, and Mark, you too. But Matt, I know you've had, experience chasing, in situations like these.
Yeah,
kind of want to explain to people what they're looking for. I mean, look at that correlation coefficient drop down there, just south of Martinsburg, Iowa. I mean, that's a pretty substantial drop right there.
So what you're looking for, and again, on a day like this, it's almost impossible to actually keep up with the storm. So like my strategy today would be to just go, if I was on this storm, probably sit just to the south of maybe the Richland area, or somewhere like that there, or even a little bit further upstream, Peoria or Westchester, there in the tornado warning, and have an ability to move east or west as the storm is moving to my northeast. So what I would be looking for is the southwest part of the storm. I don't really care about what's happening in the rain and the hail. Right. I care about what's happening in the dry part of the storm, because that's where all of the air is going up. So that's where I'm going to see the rear flank downdraft. That's where I'm going to see my wall cloud, funnel cloud, and tornado, is all where all that air is going up. And it's kind of counterintuitive when you think about it. Like, okay, there's the wall cloud coming out of the storm, then the funnel cloud, then the tornado, but I thought all of the air is going up. Well, if you think about it, tornadoes are low pressure centers, and then the storm and then the wind on the backside that brings the tube down is actually high pressure. So you're tightening the column up, and that's what gets the tornado in the dry part of the storm. So that's what I would be looking at today, and that's typically what we do is on days like this, you just sit out 10 to 15 miles ahead of the storm, let it come to you, and then reposition, as opposed to try and get up next to it in the bear's cage, if you will, where the tornado would be, and work it that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is the textbook case of a storm like a NASCAR driver, right? It's just going to keep plowing. There's nothing stopping it. I mean, God, look at the correlation coefficient drop in this. Just again, south of Martinsburg, I think is the name of that town. Yes. There's a good chance there could be. I'm wondering if some of these higher returns, and we might have a little bit of there's a lag here between this reflectivity and the correlation coefficient, but I mean, that could be debris, or it could be a hail.
You might be getting debris, or maybe some side lobe contamination, which is radar
Right.
geekiness talk. So I mean, you
Let me
may be
see where the next nearest, because this is coming out of the Des Moines, Iowa radar site. Let me see
It looks pretty
what would
far
be
away.
next
Yeah.
nearest. It is. It's pretty far. But we definitely know that there have been spotters that have, sighted this on the ground. So it is on the ground. Oh, really? Try this way. Huh.
By the way, I will be watching our Fox Lake cam very closely. There is a severe cell pretty far to the southwest, but it is lined up that if it stays together, that it could enter Fox Lake and vicinity within the next hour or so. So we'll be watching that, especially with these high speeds.
Right. And then, yeah, this is coming out of the Quad Cities. It's kind of noisy still. So I can't really say whether or not that's hail or if it's, but I'm not seeing a hail spike beyond it. I'm seeing this area down here, which could be, but it's not extending from this. So that could definitely be a tornado on radar. But you're talking well out beyond, the limits of what is realistic. This area seems to have quite a radar dead zone, so to speak.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's right in between the goalposts, so to speak. Ouch.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So it's kind of hard. And this is where, Matt, I know you work as a spotter up there in Wichita. This is where spotters are coming. It's important to have spotters on the ground. People still ask, well, why do you need it with radar? Well, this is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow, look at that gate-to-gate shear.
I'm going to put something in our back end chat for you, CJ, on that storm. It's down.
Okay.
That's a solid tube tornado. Like that's a solid tornado. Yeah, the spotters.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Spotters are vitally important. Remember, when you think of the radar beam shoots out and the Earth curves. So the radar, especially if you're looking at a storm, 40, 50 miles away, the radar is shooting up at probably 7,000 or 8,000 feet, and that's a great cue for to give the meteorologists working the radar an idea of what's going on at that height of the storm. But there's until you have eyes on what's going on in the lowest 500 or 1,000 feet of the storm where the tornado lives, you have no idea. I mean, that's the role of the spotter, and I don't think that there will ever be a radar. We won't ever put enough radars out there that could see the lowest 500 to 1,000 feet of a storm ever, probably. It's this role of the storm spotter and storm chaser on a day like this, and really any severe weather day, vitally important to the warning process from start to stop from the Weather Service.
But
right, and Mark, here's the I just pulled it up for you. That's what's on the ground right now. That is
right. Hard to see it, but it's there. It's a big one.
Oh yeah, that's definitely there. Solid, stovepipe tornado right in there. So this is definitely, it's heading off. Luckily, it looks like it missed this small town just to the east of it.
Right.
But like I said, like Matt said, you need that ground truth. In this case, we have it, and that's the beauty of the information age, right? With Twitter, I really enjoy watching my Twitter feed during these because you can get that in some instances, especially out in these small towns, in the middle of nowhere in the deep south. You can, get ground truth on tornadoes. You can see it almost instantaneously, kind of a play-by-play,
right,
if you will. Here's another one with decent rotation. Again, this is up near, or is this the same storm? And it just kind of, it's the same storm. Hold on.
Weather Service says that storm is lofting debris to 15,000 feet.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
So here's Tama, Iowa. I believe is how you say this. This is near Des Moines, or Cedar Rapids, rather. There's another tornado warning that just went out here. I'm going to see if this one also radar indicated. Yep. And it looks like there's another little hook down here. And this is, this kind of looks like the beginning of a squall line, or well, maybe not. Just a large cell.
I think we're going to see just a bunch of supercells, kind of like what we call out here in the plains a string of pearls.
Right.
Where you have waves of supercells moving through. And this is, we had wave one over the last couple of hours. That's moved northeast. Now you have this second wave and third wave coming out with the main forcing. as this parent low continues to really strengthen and move out into the Midwest. And uh, yeah, it's. I think we're headed. Well, we've said it all day long. It's going to be a bad day, and I
right?
think this is going to start to play out very quickly over the next couple of hours.
I agree. So just kind of looking down here to the south again. Sorry to whiplash people, but you look at just near Texarkana, just to the west of Texarkana, Texas, Arkansas. You have another warning. This is where we caught. I believe this was last November, where Fox Weather had live up on their programming. They showed a tornado going through the town of New Boston in Texas. This isn't too far away from there. And this one, again, I believe is also, it'll let me scroll, radar indicated. And then you have this little cell up here, which I know it's hard because of how far it is from the Shreveport radar. Let me see if I can find something that's closer. Maybe. What's this here? This is Little Rock. It doesn't look as great there, but there's another little cell in here that's tornado warned that's kind of in that weird zone between Fort Smith, Shreveport, and Little Rock. And then look, you have another cell out here, way out in East Texas, that's also tornado warned. So I mean, it's like you said, Matt. It's one of those string of pearls kind of day, which is where what we kind of expected, especially from, I mean, the HUR kind of pointed that out earlier. There was a couple of tweets I saw from people that were talking about, a large line of supercells basically stretching from Chicago to Shreveport.
Matt, did that big cluster of storms that people were talking about yesterday afternoon and evening that they said could sort of screw things up from a severe weather perspective, did that materialize? I remember a lot of people were talking about that. They were like, well, we'll have to see if this jumps out early because it could, sort of sap the energy. Did that ever happen? I think the NAM and something else were seeing it, and I'd have to scroll way back, but I remember Kaylin Patel was talking about it, a couple other people, like, I have to watch this because when you get convection early, it obviously sort of robs the energy, I would assume. Did that happen?
I think you're talking about up in parts of Nebraska. We did have some storms up there last night, but that's on the warm front, and it actually took the deeper moisture. It took most of the day here to get the dew points to even near 60 in Wichita yesterday. I was out at dinner last night with my wife, and we went into the restaurant dry, came out, and it was drizzling and rainy and kind of gunky, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. And the higher foggy, and the dew points had climbed from 57 to 62 in the course of an hour.
Yeah.
So deeper moisture actually was moving north pretty steadily through the day yesterday. I think it got there in time, obviously, but as to whether the storms developed yesterday enough to gum up what happened today, probably not. I do want to go back really quick, though, and I know we've been kind of whiplashing folks, but I want to go back onto this Iowa tornado warning to the northeast of Ottumwa, Iowa. Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, put out a mesoscale discussion. Says a likely strong tornado, upper EF2 to EF3, will continue for at least the next hour, as they are indicating that the environment suggests that the likely tornado would continue, given back surface winds in eastern Iowa, and it would also support that tornado moving north and east as well. So this is headed toward Iowa City, which is...
I was just about to say, I wanted to kind of point that out for a second. I mean, you have it. Iowa City's right here.
It's about ready to head toward Iowa City very quickly. So if you know somebody there I believe that's the state capital of Iowa, let them know that is on the way here over the next hour or so.
Well, Matt, let me ask you this. So in Iowa City, and there's other places in between, we don't want to overlook that, but Iowa City, are the sirens already going off?
Well, there's no tornado warning.
right? Not yet, so it's still too early.
Oh, I mean that could.
Like, what are they doing in Iowa City? I'm sure there's media. Are people like, all right, like, are they really paying attention because it's tornado country? I mean, they're not strangers to it, so they're ready to rock and roll and get to their safe places. They got storm cellars there and whatnot, right?
I'm sure that they do. This is pretty hardened tornado country up there in Iowa, in eastern Iowa. And remember, this was some of that area that was worked over by the derecho back in 2021, I think.
Right.
So some of these areas may have been rebuilt or anything like or stuff like that. So yeah, what you're probably getting in Iowa City now, even though there's no tornado warning, you probably have your TV stations and continuous coverage.
Sure.
You're watching that, and probably if it were me in Iowa City, I would be making the final preparations and thinking about, where am I going to go? Do I have everything I need in that safe spot? And I think it's a good point here while we're sitting here talking about what you would do if you lived in Iowa City. This is a good time to review the safety rules. If you're at home, and we may still have kids at home from school or just getting home from school, waiting for their parents to come home from work.
Yeah.
When this happens, the thing to do, whether it's daytime, nighttime, weekday, weekend, is to have as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Most of these tornadoes that we have, you can survive above ground. You just have to have enough walls between you and the outside, and you need to have a helmet, baseball helmet, motorcycle helmet, football helmet, hockey helmet, anything.
Got to protect the head. Yeah.
Because we found after April 27th, 2011, that most of the people who died from blunt force trauma to the head.
Wow.
So
Right.
you need to have a helmet, and you need to have some kind of way to let first responders know if you cannot audibly tell them that you need help. And you
Oh
need
yeah,
that
like a whistle or something.
whistle or a horn, air horn.
Sure.
Something like that. And that is in my storm kit, and I'm hardly ever home when it storms. But
Right.
it's home in my storm kit downstairs in my basement. We have helmets. We have enough food for 3 to 5 days. We have horns and whistles and all of that. Just have to prepare. Obviously, time is running out to do those, to go to the store and get those things. But if you live in Iowa City, you probably need to be thinking about what you're going to do very quickly as this large tornadic producing supercell moves in from the southwest.
Right. Just scrolling through. Let's see what we got here. Large wedge tornado north of Ollie, Iowa.
Yeah, if you want to bring that picture full, Mark.
Is this
can
Kalen
kind of-
himself?
It looks like it.
Let me
Wow.
message him.
Matt, there's that wedge right there in the bottom left. So for those of you that are looking at this, you're seeing, the base of this supercell, and you can really see that clear, defined,
Wow.
wall cloud. You can see the inflow jet coming in from the right.
This is textbook.
Wow. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is, I don't care what is happening off to the right there, darker clouds. I care about what is happening where it is not raining.
Right.
And that is a large wedge tornado in progress right now. That thing looks mean, and it is maxed out
Oh yeah.
velocity. As I look at it from the Quad City radar, I have 44 and 85, so I have about 130 miles an hour of shear in that tornado right now as it continues to move to the northeast. It looks like it will split Sigourney and Westchester, but look out in Harper or Keota in Iowa here over the next 5 to 10 minutes. That thing is nasty.
No, I agree. And then just kind of looking down the pike here, you have, if this continues, on a straight line, which they rarely do. I know, especially given the setup that we have, it's very common for these storms to kind of hook a little to the right as they move along, right? They don't normally just go straight. They always, they can do some fancy maneuvers. People, out there in the plains, they know that, especially, you look at tornadoes like El Reno in 2013 that,
Right.
basically did a U-turn and went backwards and, sped up and slowed down. This is going to pretty much keep trucking along because of the upper level setup that we have, the steering patterns that are out there. But I mean, if it keeps going, you're looking at down the pike a bit, Iowa City, and then even the southern suburbs, southern and eastern suburbs of Cedar Rapids, which isn't a small city by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, and that area.
A lot of people think of Iowa as being very sparsely populated. It has some bigger metro areas. Des Moines is a very large metro area. Cedar Rapids is a large metro area. I believe Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, that's considered one metro area, is it not? Something like that.
Oh, those are two different areas. And Cedar Rapids had the Category 4 hurricane wind gusts. I think it was 130 miles an hour in that derecho.
Right.
Back in 2021. So they could get hit again with this potentially over the next hour or two. I'm seeing, just scrolling through chat server I'm on and looking at photos from chasers on this storm in southeast Iowa near the Iowa City area.
Wow, look at that.
Nasty.
Yep. And I mean, look at wrapping in, you can actually see the rain on the reflectivity wrapping into that hook. And while it doesn't have a complete hook echo, a lot of people, are looking like, oh, where's the hook? You can see right there, where that tank comes. Hold on.
You're better adept at the radar scope for severe weather. I'm good at it for hurricanes.
So I'm actually gonna.
You don't need to highlight it.
It's right there. You can see it. You can see right where it's coming in, that pink highlight right there. That's your inflow into the storm, and it hooks around kind of, because remember, we're working with a cyclonic rotation here, so counterclockwise, it's going to come down. If it'll let me. Come down kind of like this and wrap in kind of like that. And that's where you're getting that clear slot. So I'm guessing that whoever took that photo was probably in this general vicinity right here along this highway. Sorry, I
messaged Kalen to see if that's him that's out there. We'll see if he sees his messages there.
Right. That's another problem. You get out into these rural areas, Mark, we know more than anybody. And,
Let me jump over to Twitter real quick. Fox Weather, they've got something pretty interesting. Confirmed tornado spotted live on Fox Weather in the rural area of Lancaster, Iowa. So where's Lancaster, Iowa? Let's see if we can find that on the radar scope here. Which one of these is Lancaster?
I'm wondering if this isn't up this way some more.
Too many of them. That's the ridiculous nature to this.
Yes.
You look at that, and I'll try to find it on Google Maps on my phone to help you out here. Lancaster.
I want to say it might be west of Washington, Iowa. Either way, while they get that going, I'll just tell you that the tornado warning was obviously extended north and east. The Weather Service says a large and extremely dangerous tornado is going on near Lancaster or near Sigourney, Iowa, moving north.
Okay, so we can figure out where that's at.
That's it then. Yeah, that's got to be it. Good find,
Yeah,
Matt.
it's got to be somewhere in here.
Ooh, let me go back to my Twitter real quick. Hang on. Sorry, CJ.
No, go ahead.
Wow, look at this. Let me go down. That's earlier.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Look at that.
Wow.
The power of social media. I tell you what, all the negatives. This is something else here. We can see it unfold in almost real time.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, but wow. And just wow.
Some of the other chasers that I'm seeing are also talking about horizontal vortices with that tornado. So again, it's just like the Little Rock tornado that the first Little Rock tornado of an hour and a half ago now.
Right.
Horizontal vortices, and we're talking about probably another strong tornado in progress. If you live in Iowa City, I don't think I wait for the tornado warning to get issued for me.
Right.
I'm hitting.
Let's go back.
No, I would definitely already be getting ready to take my tornado precautions. If you're in a mobile home, now's your time. You have the warning. I'm sure that Legacy Media in the area is covering this end to end. I know that our partners at Fox Weathermark have been covering this all day. I've watched their coverage earlier today myself. While I was working, I just put it on and I listened to it. And there are there's ways. Make sure you have your phone charged up. A lot of people overlook that. Especially in these smaller events, you don't typically lose cell service like we do in hurricanes.
Right.
So it's a lot easier to stay connected because it's such a smaller event. But you're looking at this, and if this continues, seeing as they've moved that second warning polygon is really kind of to the left of where I had expected it to be.
Right.
But if it continues on that track, then you're talking, towns like Tiffin,
Oxford,
Liberty, Oxford, and then into the southern and western suburbs of Cedar Rapids. And
Wow.
I don't see any sign of this thing lifting anytime soon. It's got nothing,
Right. Why would it? We're still at the peak of the dynamics. Right.
And I don't even see, there's nothing out in front of it either.
Right.
That atmosphere hasn't been worked over yet.
The other thing, CJ and Matt, but this supercell is out in front of the rest of the energy, and those are the ones that you really have to watch. That just kind of occurred to me here. Yeah, look at that. It's kind of by itself here, out in front of the rest of the pack. So it's got all this energy to take advantage of through that area, headed up towards this highway here. That's 80. So 80 is going to cross Interstate 80. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And then just kind of going through and looking at what else we have on the radar going down south again. There is a tornado warning that includes Tyler, Texas, which is not a small city by any means. And then you have that cell that we were talking about earlier is nearing. There are actually two concurrent tornado warnings in the Arkadelphia, Arkansas area. One of them, neither of them, surprisingly for the moment, includes Arkadelphia, but there's one near Caddo Valley, Midway, Arkansas. And then there's another one over towards Okolona, Arkansas, that's got some decent rotation, nothing too intense that I can see from velocity. And the one that's to the north of it is a little bit less so impressive, but I'm not seeing anything that's indicating that there's anything on the ground there, but
that one's nasty.
that's still, yeah.
This is the southern. What I think we're starting to see, guys, is not only do we have the northern part in play right now, but we're just starting to get the main show underway down to the south. The forcing was always going to be a little bit earlier to the north on this setup than it was going to be down to the south. Now we're actually taking a full advantage of the dynamics and the peak heating of the day, and you're starting to see all of these tornado warnings get lit up from Little Rock southwest, and plenty of good signatures. Pardon the word good, good in a meteorological sense because we're weather geeks and we're fascinated by them. If you're actually in one of these polygons and you're having to take cover from these, we're starting to see the second show, the second round of this really get going down here in Arkansas, and that's going to be what moves toward Memphis later on tonight, and then into Nashville potentially after midnight.
Absolutely. And I want to look at, did we get any, I don't think we've gotten any updates or any changes to the actual risk area, to my knowledge.
I don't think so.
It's still high.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the general vicinity of where, I don't think they've moved or expanded the area for it yet.
No, they didn't.
Looking to see if I can pull this up.
So Kalen says twin tornadoes.
Really?
So he's got to be out there. That's what that's.
So
he's got to be there.
So let's put up, Mark, if you'll zoom in. Okay.
I'll let you do it.
Got it. Got it. So I want to zoom in on this tornado near Iowa City. I'm going to pull back up, see if I can get so this is the Quad Cities radar. I want to look at the velocity signature. If he's saying that there's twin tornadoes there.
Makes a case for it. You have that parent circulation there between Harper and Kyoto, and then you have another one southwest of Harper, and it would jive. Yeah. He's I could see it.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see it here.
Almost
Wow.
almost have a bounded weak echo region on the radar as well.
Yeah.
You take a look at it, and I know we're getting really geeky with this. If you think about it, like a hurricane eye wall has thunderstorms all the way around it. Tornadoes operate in the same vein, where you
Right.
have descending air there as the tornado and everything around it on the outside. You pretty much have the same thing here as well, where you now have a ring of thunderstorms all the way around the tornado where the lighter rain echoes are, and that's going to be where the tornado is at. And some of the strongest tornadoes have a complete bounded weak echo region all the way around it. So this one, no doubt, is
Yep.
a nasty tornado on approach to Iowa City.
Oh no, definitely. I think that we in the weather community we like to call it the donut hole, right? Well, that's what we're looking for when we talk about a bounded weak echo region. We're looking for a hole in the returns on reflectivity, and that's what you're going to see right here, just to the what is that? Just to the northwest of Kyoto. So if I had to guess, he's probably somewhere along one of these highways here, looking back into it.
Yeah, that
Now
grid system out there.
yeah. Now, the other problem with this is that it's starting to become rain wrapped again. So, I mean, there's a chance they could lose visual on it for a little while. I mean, you got a lot of the rain out ahead of it. It's not really, it's kind of embedded in there. It kind of stinks. We don't really have that great of a radar site to get, like, there's nothing close range to
Yeah,
it.
that's a real
And
bummer. They're all in between right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange. Let's see if we can get anything from Des Moines that's any better. No, not really. That just makes it more look. It's got that kidney bean shape though on the Des Moines radar.
Right.
Yeah, no. Now I also want to point out here. Look at this little bow echo on this cell here to the south that's under this severe thunderstorm warning.
That's some wind in there. I bet that's got an amazing shelf cloud.
Oh, I'm sure. I would have no doubt just looking at it. Look at the hail core in there too. I wonder what they're saying the hail on that is.
By the way, folks, I guess they do this on radio, whatever, station ID. You're watching HurricaneTrack's live coverage. Practice run here, getting ready for hurricane season especially, although we will do this from time to time. Once we get into the second half of April through mid-June, our team will be going out into the Great Plains. It's just not time yet from a bunch of different perspectives. I've got a conference I've got to be at next week, and spring break with my kids coming up after that, and we're doing a vacation together because I'm going to be busy from mid-April, April 16th on. But we're going to be out there. And so you got CJ Morgan, you got Mark Sudduth, that's me. We have Matt Harding. Matt's in Wichita. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. CJ's down in Southwest Florida. But we're going to do this during our severe weather coverage. And, of course, we will have cameras that belong to us that we will be able to show. And the whole project, of course, is funded through our crowdfunding project through Patreon. And we've gotten to know a lot of people through YouTube and Twitter over the years and really grown this thing. I have shipped a bunch of equipment out to Weatherford, Texas. One of our partners lives out there, Jeff, in Weatherford, and he's housing the equipment for me. I'll be driving even more out there. But yeah, it's coming. Once we get to mid-April and beyond, and we've talked about this earlier today, this is just the start. This severe weather season probably is going to ramp up, and eventually it should shift west, at least from the precip perspective. We hope that's the case because the nation's midsection needs the rain. California, the Sierra, the Oregon and Washington Olympic ranges, and the Wasatch and whatnot in Utah, and even parts of the Rockies have been stealing all the moisture. We got to get it out into the Great Plains proper, but with that will come severe weather, and that's the downside. But we will be out there covering it. And then, of course, we are only about 2 months away from hurricane season, and this will help get us ready for that as well. So thanks for tuning in, and good practice for us here. We'll probably do this for about another hour or so, and then that'll be that. But just, again, good practice. Appreciate Matt and CJ doing this. I'll probably be on the other end. I'll be out there in it once we get down the road. So good to be here with you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. We're glad to have everybody with us. I'm glad to be a part of this, Mark. I was just looking, we're covering right now some, very violent storms in Iowa. And right now, I kind of want to draw our attention to just to the west of Cedar Rapids. there is another. Oh, well, maybe not. I would just seen. So they must have just updated this morning that there was a confirmed tornado on the ground from spotter reports in this mess right here,
God,
that you see on your screen now.
That's a good word for it. It's very messy.
Yeah.
Yuck.
I mean, you can see like, one, maybe two, even maybe three.
You could probably make a case for two different spots there, either
Mhm.
side of Keystone.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. That's what I like to call a mess. Um, that's my professional opinion there. But then I want to drop down again to this cell that we've been following for now. I want to say about a good 20 minutes or so. This is just south of, what is that? Kinross, just north of Kyoto, just kind of south and
Right along highway.
west of Wellman, right in between like highways 22 and
Yeah.
92 here. I mean, you're talking, and we've had visual on this tornado. So this is storm relative velocity. This is coming out of the Quad Cities, Iowa radar. Now I'm going to switch over to velocity, and it gives you a little bit of a better picture. So you definitely have that strong rotation here, and then there's a bit of what may be a bounded weak echo region right in here. But I mean, there again, it's just kind of messy because we're getting far enough away from the radar site that it's going to cause some problems for us. But this is going to come into the general vicinity of the Iowa City area, kind of maybe even possibly split the distance between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City by the time it crosses, what is this, Interstate 580 here, that comes south from Cedar Rapids to Iowa City. It's going to kind of come up in a northeasterly path, kind of like this. It might stay west of Iowa City at this point, but kind of like a hurricane, you never count it until, it passes your latitude, right? You never count a tornado until it's past you, in this sense. Now, Matt, I know you were talking earlier about, bounded weak echo region. You want to talk about more of what we're looking for when we look at the radar? Because I know a lot of people, to some people, it's just a splattering of paint, right?
Yeah. So let's go. We'll stay on this Iowa City cell, or this storm to the southwest of Iowa City. And when you look at the reflectivity here on the radar, it does kind of look like a kidney bean, or maybe even a flying eagle a little bit, where you have the foot of the eagle here and then his toes kind of come out like that. That's what we're looking for on the radar. And then what you're looking for also is this area of higher reflectivity returns there between Kinross and Wellman. And if we look at we look at the velocity again, that matches up well with where the tornado is that higher reflectivity. And then the final thing we do is to look for damage is on the correlation coefficient, and we see that we have a deep blue dropout there in the debris detection there from the radar.
Wow, yeah, there it is right there.
Basically, the dual pole sends out a pulse, and the reds and the deeper reds and shades of pink that you see towards South English and up toward Williamsburg, those are all uniform. It's all falling in one way. It's all got one shape. But when we look at the deeper blues and then ultimately greens and then blues and then whites and grays, like we saw in Mississippi last week, that is the radar telling the radar operator that something is not in the same shape as the raindrops. That could be glass, pieces of wood, cars, trucks, even 18-wheelers. Like we saw 18-wheelers in Rolling Fork stacked on top of each other. So that is what the radar is telling us. It's telling us that the shape of the pulse that it's getting back is not the same as it is as the raindrops. So that is how meteorologists can detect whether a tornado is doing damage, is by the bright blue spot, or the dropout, if you will, in the correlation coefficient. So we're able to tell that, and actually, and when I go back to the reflectivity, the colors jumped up even more higher on the radar return. So that indicates to me that the tornado is still doing damage right now as it approaches crosses the highway, probably north of the highway by now, between Kinross and Wellman. So those are some things that you would look for on the radar. Again, CJ's right. Most people look at the radar and they think it's just a bucket of spilled paint, but you have to know what you're looking for, and those are just three different ways that meteorologists can look at and diagnose what a storm is doing on the fly.
Right, and I want to kind of mention that the National Weather Service has tagged this as a particularly dangerous situation. So it is a PDS tornado warning, and what that means is that, in this sense, and it says it right here in the warning, at 4:22 p.m. Central Time, so this is 4 minutes ago, a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado was located north of Kyoto, or 14 miles northwest of Washington, moving northeast at 60 miles an hour. Tornadoes heading towards will be near Kelowna, Amish, and Holbrook around 4:30, and Windham, Frytown, and Sharon Center around 4:35. So, talking in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
So I got a message back from Kalen. Sorry to jump in.
Mm-hmm. You're good.
Kalen Patel says, yes, that is his stuff. He's out there. He said it's insane.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, he's perfectly positioned too. That's the other thing. He is perfectly positioned to, be there for this. Has he posted anything else?
No, I hadn't seen anything.
Okay. He's probably telling to try to grab it again. Well, yeah, that's what it looks like so far.
And I just want to talk about downstream here a little bit. This storm is continuing to move to the northeast, and right now it's only about 25 miles southwest of Iowa City, and it's moving at 65 miles an hour. So you probably have, 15, 20 minutes in Iowa City to prepare for a possible large tornado moving in on the southwest side of town. And this will move up toward Coralville, North Liberty, Tifton, as well as Iowa City proper. Those are all suburbs within.
They just extended the tornado warning. It looks like Iowa City is just to the right. Sorry, I was.
It's okay. Sorry. Look at this. Look at this. There's some damage.
Oh my God! Is that
This has got to be down in Arkansas, too wooded and whatnot to be Iowa. But here's the tornado we're talking about. Two of them near Ollie. But look down here. There's video. Look at that.
Oh.
That's Iowa. And then this is Will Nunley. This is from Brett Adair. Tornadoes down in Arkansas. But look at this down happening in Iowa. So
are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah, I can now. So take it back over, CJ. That's what's coming. It's bad. We can hear you, CJ. Yes.
Sorry, my network just dropped out there for a second. So what you guys were showing, that's from this storm right here, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to point out, there's the debris ball.
Yeah.
On radar. That's not hail. That is a debris ball.
Yep, dirt and all kinds of stuff west of Wellman there.
Yeah, if I had to guess, this is, oh, wow. Sorry, I'm just seeing it pop across because I have the stream. I'm monitoring it on my TV. But wow. That
ball is 64.5 dBz. So there's some serious stuff getting lofted there west of Wellman. And this is a no doubt about it situation. If you live in Iowa City, you got to hit the deck.
Right. Yeah. No, this is definitely something where I would encourage people to be underground, if possible.
Oh, this is a strong one. And it looks like in some of this area of Iowa City, especially along Interstate 80, channeling my hockey knowledge because I'm a minor league hockey fan, there is a hockey team in Coralville. I don't know if they're at home tonight. Playing the the Heartlanders are based out of Coralville, Iowa. I don't know if they are at home tonight, but if they are, it's going to be a rowdy night there in central Iowa. And
well, I mean, that's important. Yeah, I mean, there's these tornadoes and these storms are going to get in the way of life, unfortunately. You can't just say, "Oh, life goes on, forget it." These are dangerous. They're very dangerous.
Right, and I mean, I love hockey as much as the next guy, but it's more important to protect yourselves. I did see a lot of tweets on Twitter because I have my tweet deck up and running earlier, kind of, just monitoring certain different areas where we expected these storms to hit. And I saw a lot of, like little, I mean, it's a Friday night. A lot of little league teams are playing. It's spring.
Spring sports,
So, I mean, that's what, you're kind of looking at. So there are pictures. This is from at Grant L. Harrison, Mark, of Little Rock. Some pretty decent damage there. It looks like EF1, maybe EF2 level damage.
Wow.
Roof torn off of a fire station. So that's at Grant L. Harrison. If you want to bring that up on Twitter. But they're showing it right now.
All right. Who should I look for?
That's it. Grant L. Harrison. Sorry. GrantLHarrison.
This guy.
Oh, here's from at Live Storm Chasers. There's the 2 tornadoes on the ground in Iowa.
Wow.
Um,
I'm looking at at velocity gate to gate, and there are let's see, 84 outbound against 61 inbound. We have 146 miles an hour of shear in this tornado north of Wellman, and no doubt about it, debris signature on radar with this storm as it moves northeast. The debris drop is pretty significant here, and you have to think that if you were in Iowa City or you're west of Iowa City on Interstate 80 and you're in the rain, because of the upper wind flow in the atmosphere, you could potentially be getting debris fallout from what is going on in Wellman.
Absolutely.
This in the bigger tornadoes where you get debris falling out ahead of the tornado. Remember, tornadoes are rotating updrafts. What goes up has to come down, and and you could very well be getting some debris fallout mixed in with the hail here on the west side of this tornado as it approaches Interstate 80 here over the next few minutes. I feel comfortable enough in saying, and probably unless this takes a hard turn to the right, I don't think this is going to go into Iowa City proper. I think this is more of an issue for Tiffin, North Liberty, Oxford here over the next few minutes, even Coralville. So folks in that area, especially west of Iowa City, need to be taking cover right now. This is a nasty tornado, a pair of them inbound.
So it's like it's going to cross 80 and 380, it looks like. But anyway, Interstate 80, so there's a lot of truckers out there. These trucking companies, do they have like, I don't know if they have staff meteorologists, but some way that they can alert these truckers? You're driving along, and I know even on my many hundreds of thousands of miles on the highway of tracking storms, it gets to be mundane or whatever. I mean, it's different because I'm connected, to the weather. But truckers coming along, he sees the dark clouds, and like, is dispatch or somebody saying, "Hey, surely these truckers are tracked?" And they're like, I think Storm Pulse was trying to do something with this. My friend Matt down there, and they moved over to Austin and got some VC money, I think. Like, keeping track of our assets on trucks. There's just no reason for truckers to drive into tornadic storms. How is that prevented, if it is? Any words of wisdom from, especially Matt, because you're more connected to the commercial side, I think.
I think some of those companies use Baron, that they have some technology where they're able to put radar on like a GPS screen or a iPad screen or something like that. There in the trucks. Honestly, don't know if I would know enough about it to speak with authority.
We see it too many times of these trucks blown over, and it's totally preventable.
It is.
And I just wondered about that, especially these larger trucking companies, that they would have some kind of an alert that goes out. Okay, guys and gals, female drivers too, right? They do it just as much as the men. I've seen them at these big truck stops on my hurricane intercepts. Lots of truckers, and this has to be concerning because it's going to go over a major interstate system. I mean, 80, folks, that ends up in California. That goes right through the Donner Pass.
In New York City. 1,500
miles west or whatever. Right, exactly. Anyway, when stuff is 100% preventable, it's aggravating, that something more isn't done that seems to be very simple. A text message, an alert system, and hey, maybe there's a need for this. Something we can look into later. I don't know. Private weather companies could let these people know, hey, Bob, stop your truck at West Branch and take a breather. Like, seriously. Anyway, good luck to all of those that are out there, because those storms, it's already nasty on Interstate 80 now outside of Iowa City. It looks like the storm seems to be weakening a little bit. Am I right?
Yeah, it does. I was just looking at it on the velocity here a minute ago, and it does look like that signature is not as pronounced as it once was.
More linear.
Yeah, it does, and it may have been swallowed up by that line of storms there to the west, and in fact it has. So that's a good call, Mark, on that. And we're still talking about this. There's still a pretty good debris signature with this on radar. It's going to take a little bit of time for the debris signature to go away on it. But if you are living to the north and northeast of where this tornado is at, or where it has tracked, there is the potential that you could get some debris fallout from that tornado here over the next few minutes, as it's going to get absorbed in the line here, but it's possible we could have some more debris fallout for areas in that tornado warning.
By the way, it looks like parts of Chicago are now under a severe thunderstorm warning, as a line goes from Joliet, Illinois, all the way over into parts of Indiana there. Chicago, Illinois, at the end of March, under a severe thunderstorm warning with a special marine warning for parts of Lake Michigan. Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there it is right there.
So our camera in Fox Lakes.
Yeah, you want to fire that up?
Yeah, we're going to see some stuff there. Let's bring that up real quick.
Yeah, because it looks like there's the shelf right there, off to your right.
Yeah, there's a little bit of raindrops on there.
Rain.
We're going to be watching this. It's about an hour away from the real nasty stuff coming in there.
Now, if you can, Mark, you want to zoom into where this is at?
Yeah, so Fox Lake.
Roughly.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it. Fox Lakes. All right, there's Milwaukee. It's hard to find. It's buried in here. It's a hard one. Southwest of Milwaukee. Where are you?
I see it. Go back to right where you just had the cursor.
There's Algonquin.
Go north to McHenry, and it's directly to the right. Stop.
This is like a battleship,
Go to your right.
E5. Yeah, there it is. Fox Lake right there.
There it is. See, I told you we'd get it.
All right. We got to make that like a favorite or whatever.
Yeah. That's what we'll have to do on Radar Scope. We'll have to add all of our cameras as locations, because we got the coordinates.
Right. But yeah, I mean, they're in the clear now, but there's some jump coming, that's for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. And they have a couple of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is all moving north and west, or north and east, rather, not north and west. But, man, look at this.
Look at that one right here. Right here. Hold on. Look at this guy. What if that guy... Oops. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Whew,
that'd be perfect placement.
But look, dude, think about Chicago.
Right. That's what
all the people that are going to be leaving work in the next little while, and this massive squall lines coming in.
Right, and you're talking about big suburbs of Chicago, like Hammond, Indiana, Calumet City, Indiana, Oak Lawn, the southern and, lakeside suburbs, from Joliet the whole way over to basically Gary, Indiana. And that's just going to keep moving north and west. It's going to approach the, Lake Michigan shoreline and just push right out into the lake. So anybody that's actually that's actually out on a boat while you would be in the middle of March in Lake
Right.
Michigan, I have no idea. But if
right.
somebody is, that's going to be intense. That's going to be a very intense squall line, and it's going to cause immediately higher seas. The Great Lakes are nothing to mess with when it comes to bad weather.
You know, our bud Tim Melman, who does a lot of our graphics, he's from that area. He's down in
Yeah, and
St.
he's in
Louis for
St.
college,
Louis.
right? But man, you know he's got to be messaging mom and dad back. You know what? I'm going to fire him up on the Discord and just see what's, hey Tim, what are you thinking about back home, buddy? I'm going to tag him on our Discord.
And I'll just for a second, Matt, while he's doing that, look at this giant massive tornado warnings in and around Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, and we continue to get reports of tornadoes near the Iowa City area. The latest report was at 4:36. It's 6 minutes ago of a deputy watching a tornado near Wellman, Iowa. So,
oh yeah, there it is.
A whole host of tornado warnings continue up there in northern portions.
Oh yeah,
Iowa, northern and eastern portions of Iowa. Now Waterloo, Waverly under tornado warnings.
Yep.
Up there, I have family who live in Cedar Rapids, and they're probably going to get smacked with this line here coming up here in the next few minutes. So, we've already talked to them today. Meanwhile, down south, there is a tornado warning for the supercell that went through the second supercell that went through Arkansas, that went through Little Rock, is producing a large and extremely dangerous tornado near Wynne, Arkansas, and it is moving east at 45 miles an hour. And this is about 45 miles west northwest ish of Memphis, and will.
Yeah, I was watching that cell earlier myself because it's kind of out there all by itself, and this is what we were talking about earlier. As you get these cells that kind of break out and go ahead of the main line, those are the ones we got to worry about.
Yeah. By the way, CJ, your conversation with Matt earlier was spot on. Taylor Trogdon mentioning on Twitter, debris smokestack observed as non-meteorological targets are lofted from the surface, carried downstream. Debris fallout is likely occurring in Iowa City, Iowa, with a tornado still on the ground to the southwest. That was 9 minutes ago.
And here is the town of Wynne in Arkansas. Wow.
And that is
a decent hook.
That tornado is, it's been down for a bit. And maybe there are two there. Like I could make a case for two, but definitely if there were two, the strongest of the two is about 4 miles west of Wynne, Arkansas, and about to move in to that area. It is paralleling Interstate 40 right now. Looks like it would miss Memphis proper to the north, but it's going to be a close call for that area of southwest Tennessee here over the next little bit. But that is a nasty looking supercell thunderstorm there in east central Arkansas.
Yeah, this is what we were, kind of worried about today, right? You can't get any more. If I could just, zoom in. And I haven't gotten a chance to look at what this mesoscale discussion is for this area yet. But you can't get any more textbook of what a supercell looks like on radar. You just can't.
Man, oh man, what a day! That stuff headed for Chicago is just, I can't fathom. Wow. Huge areas.
Does have a ground stop.
Sure.
Chicago.
And so look, that's going to have big ripple impacts across the air traffic. It's a weekend. Is spring break still going on? That's what I mean, man. Weather,
one of the most
weather's
important
a big
hubs
deal.
for travel is
Sure.
at a ground stop. It's a problem, to say the least. And Mark, as somebody that flies, one of the big three airlines often, just how impactful that is when it couldn't even be somewhere in your area. It could be somewhere way out like Chicago that could now theoretically have delays all over the country.
Correct. Exactly.
Let's go
ORD,
back and
man,
see
that's
what
a
this
big one.
cell's
It's a
doing.
big hub.
Yes. And you still have some of these, little cells out here by themselves out in Illinois. But here's that cell we were looking at earlier near Iowa City. And I mean, there's still some rotation there. The more impressive of the two, I would say, is this cell up near Vinton, Iowa. Let me see if I can pull up storm relative regular velocity here. And I mean, it pretty much the same. There's not as much here, but this will eventually come up into the southern and eastern suburbs of Cedar Rapids as everything continues to push off to the north and the east.
Real quick, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say, if I were west of Iowa City right now, I don't know if I would get out of the shelter. That storm continues to rotate, and it does have some pretty significant inbound winds on it as well. So it's not going to take a whole lot to tighten it up. As a matter of fact, on the latest scan, it just looks like it tightened up again. So 42 against 47. There's on the southwest side of Iowa City. So if you live in Iowa City, don't come out, or west of there, Coralville, Tifton, Oxford, North Liberty, don't come out of the shelter. As we've talked about, this is kind of a cyclic supercell. It will produce a tornado, be down for a long time, come back up, and then cycle again. And it looks like it's cycling at the wrong time now on approach to Iowa City.
Let me jump over on my Twitter. Holy cow, look at this stuff that's coming in. All right, so this is a picture of the twin tornadoes. Look at this. This is a screen cap somebody did. Look how close that chaser is. SeeTheStorm.com. Yeah, I guess so.
I'm surprised it's not read.
So, real quick. No, I don't want to read. I want to pause it. Let's pause that, please. So, one of the things...
Look at the debris. Look at the large debris.
And look at like the... Oh, yeah. So, one of the things that we want to do... I have no desire to drive that close. I know that there's a...
you and me both.
population segment that really, it's like watching NASCAR. You want to just see how close they can get. And we watch NASCAR a lot for the wrecks because they are spectacular. But, it's no good when somebody is hurt or killed out there, and I don't want to be that close. I mean, they are fascinating. And we've got technology, all right? And so our goal when we do this severe weather thing is when we see one of these coming on radar, especially out in the traditional Tornado Alley area, and we practiced this a little bit last year and the year before. It's really hard to do, but what we want to do is have the supercell coming, and we set up a fence of cameras, like a picket fence, in front of it, the supercell, of tornado or not, and stream it from that and GoPro it with that using 4K video and see something like this. Can you imagine? And this chaser hopefully is safe and they hopefully know what they're doing and so forth. But imagine seeing that tornado where it's not shaky video. It's not shaky. Hold on,
bring it full screen if you can. Sorry, I don't mean to.
It's all right.
Maybe go back a couple of seconds. Look at the large debris, Matt. Go ahead, let it pause it. Look at the large pieces of homes.
Oh, yeah,
there's
sheet
metal in there. Wow, just incredible. You can see the large pieces of debris. Right. And this is what's most concerning to people that are caught, without shelter during these storms. I mean, I think that was a whole tree in the middle there.
Right. Mm-hmm. I want to see these from multiple angles using camera systems. 4K video, maybe even have some of them on slow-mo, 240 frames a second. And I think that's a way that we can contribute to documenting tornadoes. Will it help the science? I don't know. I think enough video that's of high quality maybe someday can be used in some kind of AI or machine learning. But up close from camera systems like we do in hurricanes, again, that's dangerous right there. That chaser is very lucky, and then somebody's even closer. Not here to pass judgment, but that's just not. That's a no from me. Sorry. And,
yeah, no kidding. Mark,
for somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, that's
right.
I mean, I'm sure it's unbelievable, and certainly being in Hurricane Charlie was unbelievable, but it scared me, and I'm just, hey, look, I'll
Been through
admit
the eye
that,
wall of a
yeah,
Category 4, 10 out of 10
right,
would never do it again.
yeah, like, anyway, so that's unbelievable
Um,
video there coming
yeah,
out of the
no,
area, so
absolutely. And I mean, to Matt's point earlier, this is kind of getting swallowed up in this little linear
yeah,
uh, form now. But I mean, the residual circulation is still there.
It's
Um,
still producing a tornado, as a matter of fact.
is it? Is it still okay?
Weather Service continues the tornado warning for northwest Johnson County, Iowa, until 5:15. Confirmed tornado, easy for me to say, located near Tiffin or near Iowa City, moving northeast at 55 miles an hour. So it does appear it's missed the Coralville area to the west and Iowa City proper to the west, but Tiffin, North Liberty, on up toward Solon and Schererville need to be in tornado places right now. And also, while we're talking about that storm, the other big storm that we were talking about here on approach to Memphis has gone through Wynne, Arkansas. And there is a debris ball with that storm as well as it continues to move east. What the Weather Service labels as a PDS tornado warning continues for northwestern Crittenden and eastern Cross counties in Arkansas until 5:30. This is about to cross interstate or cross or come very close, if you will, to Interstate 55 here over the next hour.
ouch.
Yeah, there's no doubting that there's something on the ground there. You can actually see the inflow
Yeah,
on reflectivity right here coming in. So for those that are, looking, this is the tornado in the middle there, that little ball, that's the debris ball. But your, spin is coming like this, and you're getting air coming in around, wrapping around. And that's what's happening. And you can see it on radar now. There's also this odd little feature over here. Not sure what that is, but the main thing that we're concerned about is this little section of rotation right in here. And I mean, this is going to continue pushing off to the north and east here towards towns like Parkin is next. And then you look more, it's going to cross Interstate 55 somewhere in that's eastern Arkansas as it crosses the Mississippi River. This is going to come really close to that Memphis radar site, which is right here. So there's a good chance we'll get to see a nice return there as it gets closer and it hops over the Mississippi River somewhere between Memphis and Osceola, Arkansas.
wow, look at that. That's amazing. Hey, Matt and CJ, what are these notch things going on right here? That's really interesting. What's up with that? I mean, the turbulence, these are always just, you say textbook. I mean, I think we see something new every year. What's that all about? What do you think?
Honestly,
Gosh, look at that.
I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I think that
I'm thinking the same thing there. I couldn't even.
I think it might just be the strong winds hitting the precip, and I think that. I mean, I don't know.
It's just bizarre. Yeah, I mean, it's like I haven't seen anything that sort of jagged before or whatever. That's amazing.
Hold on, Mark. I'm going to let you telestrate here again in a second. I just want to bring it out and kind of, if you can zoom in and you can telestrate, look at that perfect little ball.
Yeah.
Right there in the center of that hook.
Not good at all.
Just God. So, you have folks in between Cherry Valley and Parkin in Arkansas, Earl moving down. Then you have the Interstate 55 corridor. You talk about a very heavy trucking route. Interstate 55 is one of the main route between Chicago and New Orleans. It's the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast, paralleling the Mississippi River. And I mean, just wow! Every scan, it just looks more impressive on radar.
Looks like it has feeder bands, That's
what I'm saying. It's insane.
Gosh, man, whatever chasers are on that, good luck.
Yeah,
no kidding. And a new tornado warning for north of Iowa City for the storm we've been talking about here for the last hour. Confirmed tornado over Oakdale, Iowa, moving or near Iowa City, moving northeast at 45 miles an hour. If the tornado itself weren't enough, talking about baseball size hail with that storm as well. So we've
Hail
talked about
that size is
hail.
enough to end a chase for certain.
Yeah. So it's really bad up in eastern Iowa that where the and by the way, let's give kudos to the folks at the Storm Prediction Center today
Yeah.
who nailed where the high risk is going to be. And we are in southeast Iowa, northwest Illinois. May have had one round of storms, and that's kind of primed the pump, if you will, for this second round about to move
Right.
in. They're
Right.
tornadoes are not over there in that area, and they've also nailed this high risk down here in the Memphis area as well. Even though there are not as many storms, these storms down here in the middle and lower Mississippi Valley are going to be just as bad as the storms up north.
Look at this. The eastern 2/3 of the country just severely impacted from the wind and the fires. There are some of those in parts of the plains. Blizzard and winter storm up north, the severe and the warm sector. And then we've got the wind stuff going on. And even out in the maritime areas, out in the Atlantic, that's storm warnings there. So a major, major springtime storm. And we're going to do it all again, unfortunately, next week it looks like. Here's our Fox Lake camera, donated by one of our friends and his colleague there in Illinois. Expect this to get pretty raucous in the coming hour or so as we watch these storms track through parts of Illinois. But this one here, northwest of Memphis, looks like it's lost a little bit of its definition, which is a good thing. But wow.
Tornado emergency on that storm for Parkin and Earl, Arkansas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's Earl right there, very small area. And there's Parkin.
Yep.
But it does look like it's lost some of its definition, which is good. Yeah, we'll take
I'm going to look and see if I can't see anything on Twitter as well coming out of that area.
Let's check on the Windy City.
Yeah.
And I did see something about Wynn, Arkansas taking a hit. So this tornado went through Wynn earlier as well.
And so it's weakened a little bit up here, but nevertheless a nasty commute for the Chicago area. And then our camera up here in the Fox Lake area, somewhere down in this area, some of these storms as they close in, that's going to be really interesting to see. Wow. What a day.
Wow, I don't know where this is, but it's in Arkansas somewhere, and you're looking at possibly EF3 level damage. All exterior walls gone. Only interior walls remaining. I don't know where this is. I don't know if this is Little Rock or where. Looks like it lofted an SUV. Let me see. I'm trying to find something. Mm.
But yeah, folks, next week, tomorrow it shifts to the southeast and even parts of the north. That's incredible. April 1st. And we're talking about Pennsylvania, New York, Jersey. I mean, 40 million people live up there. On Saturday, April 1st.
Very, very densely populated region of the country.
I still have a camera over there in Buffalo that left over from November. It's the only one missing. I gotta just, maybe when it calms down, tag the weather service up there on Twitter, see if somebody will go out and take a look for me, see if it's still there. But the day 4 through 8, no big deal. But day 5, ouch. Same areas again. Already a 30% chance there. Whew.
And we kind of were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, Mark, and you and I as well last time we got on here, Matt. We had an inkling that this season was going to be a bit intense.
Yeah.
Just given the pattern, and what do we think is actually giving this its its oomph, so to speak. Personally, I think it has something to do with the warming of the warm, very warm Gulf of Mexico, because you have all that moisture
It's just
pulling into
logic.
the middle of the
Yeah,
country.
yeah. An extra warm Gulf logic would dictate that. Let's look at that real quick. I show that often on my updates, but we can. Let's see. There it is. Yeah, look at this. The Gulf of Mexico, such a huge area, and the whole thing's at least a degree Celsius, it looks like, and that's a lot of extra moisture and energy because water vapor, inherently has more energy in it. The adds all the latent heat, whatever. It just goes without saying. I think that's a big part of it. Has to be, and the Gulf has really been warm like this. I have to go back and look. It just seems like from 2010 on, it hasn't cooled off in the off season.
Right.
And I would say that the Gulf has a lot to do with it, and then globally, the MJO is in phases 6, 7, and 8 right now, and those tend to be the stormier times out here, 6, 7, and 8. When we get into those phases. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I mean, look forward, maybe we catch our breath here in the middle part of the month with the MJO kind of working back toward a null or phase 1.
Yep.
I haven't looked at the MJO forecast here recently, but it's going to balance itself out at some point, right? So, it's just a matter of holding your breath and weathering this until we can. I want to go back up to Iowa very quickly, and we talked about the storm cycling again. It looks like there may be a tornado northeast of North Liberty, Iowa, and then there is a for sure tornado going on southeast of Iowa City, and a tornado warning continues for both of those storms. Confirmed tornado near Iowa City, moving east at 60 miles an hour. So this is just moving right down the interstate toward West Branch and West Liberty, Iowa. May split the uprights there, but paralleling Interstate 80 right now on the southeast side of Iowa City.
60 miles per hour. My goodness. I can't get over that.
Yeah. It's like these are storms moving at highway speeds today. And they don't stop. They don't have lights or anything like that. So,
Speaking of highways, that's 80. A large section of 80 there, probably at a standstill. I hope the truckers and anybody else have just said, hey, I'm going to pull off for a little bit, and because that's really dangerous stuff. And first responders are not going to be able to get to you for a while if there are problems.
Right. And I still want to just reiterate, we still have that tornado emergency in northern Crittenden and southeastern Cross counties in eastern Arkansas. This is for that tornado near Parkin, which is moving east at 50. And they've extended that warning a little bit further to the east as the tornado approaches Earl, and it's started to wrap up again. It looks much more, hooky. And there's actually, Mark, you talked about those little notches on the velocity, and man,
what the heck?
On the reflectivity, and it's just kind of like all over the place.
Back. And by the way, that is a reported tornado with that. Storm spotters reported a tornado in Parkin, Arkansas. So not only has this storm went through Wynne, Arkansas with a tornado, but apparently now Parkin as well. And as CJ said, that tornado emergency continues. It almost looks like it has a debris ball again.
Right.
Look in the reflectivity without actually having the debris ball there. This is really impressive. This is stuff that you would see in late April or May, and you're seeing it in late March. It is unreal.
Yeah,
very impressive. Very impressive hook on that
for the future. And Eric Webb mentioned this weeks ago, that he thought, just looking at some of the it might have been the CAN-SIPS data, or it might have been CFS precip data, but he was opining, several weeks ago in February, I think, that should be a pretty active severe weather season, and part of it was attributed to the massive snowpack out west, and that just, I think he said it added moisture. I don't know. He had his reasons, which made sense. And here we are. It's coming to fruition. We're just at the end of March. We have 2 solid months of severe weather to get through. And as Matt said, yes, we will have some downtime, thankfully. But I think we're primed for a pretty big severe weather season overall.
Oh, I agree. And the National Weather Service went ahead and put out another mesoscale discussion for that very southern end of the cold front in Texas, extending down, just basically Waco and Killeen, Texas. So just to give you like the overall perspective, you're talking from Killeen, Texas to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, essentially.
Yeah.
Under the threat for severe weather. That's what? Almost 1,500 miles?
So,
Huge,
Tim Melman says, yes, he's listening to the live stream, definitely watching it. One of my roommates is from Iowa City. He says his family is sheltering in the basement right now.
Good.
Very good.
That's what they should be doing. And, I don't remember which one of you gentlemen said it earlier, but, this is tornado country out there in Iowa. They know, they know what they should be doing. For folks, I know Iowa's a pretty popular place to live. It's very family friendly. People really like it there. So if you're new to the region, you want to make sure that you're kind of versed. We talk about it here in Florida a lot with people that are new, that have never experienced hurricanes. Well, in this case, you really got to kind of keep up on the lingo. And, when you live in that region of the country, this is something that you deal with. Although I will say this is rare. Well, the last time we had a high risk day was what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, that's right.
And, Matt, you were talking about the last time we had 2 separate discrete areas of high risk was what, 2012?
Yeah, the 6Z outlook, or the 1 a.m. outlook from the Storm Prediction Center on April 14th of 2012. And then that morphed into one big high risk. And I remember that day we saw 4 tornadoes, including the EF4 tornado that was that went right up south of Ellsworth, Kansas, and then we went back down south and followed the tornado that came within miles of my house, and hit the Spirit Aerosystems plant here in southeast parts of the city of Wichita, and then on off into Butler County, and that was rated an EF3 tornado that evening. Interestingly enough, on that evening, my chase partner and I had lost data in our vehicle, and we got caught in the rear flank downdraft of the storm. So the winds on the back side of the tornado came around on us. Right. And we probably had 90-mile-per-hour winds pushing us down the road as we are headed east. Wow. on a county road. So that was a really hairy evening for sure. And but yeah, that is the last time we had 2 different areas of a high risk for severe weather.
Right. And I mean, the good news is, just real quick, didn't want to distract from that, the tornado warnings that were in effect for areas north and west of Cedar Rapids look to have finally been discontinued. But you look at look at this line of storms, and then there's like a little, like almost like a moat, as we'd say, Mark, yeah, during tropical weather, and then there's that back line of storms behind it that's coming through areas like Waterloo right now.
Gosh.
But I mean, and then you have these little supercells out near Rockford, Illinois, that are just kind of hanging out there. But yeah, wow. I don't really, it's amazing to me that, like you look at, we said there's going to be a chance for a long track tornado. I want to say we've been covering this one in Iowa for now almost an hour. It's been confirmed on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that was much further to the south that we picked up on it, almost down here. So you're talking, let's use, I want to say we started covering it when it was near Sojourner, Iowa. So even just in that span of time, you're talking about almost 50 to 60 miles it's been on the ground.
Yep.
There are twin tornadoes right now on that same supercell. 2 different tornadoes about 10 miles apart. One near Solon, Iowa, and the other one near West Branch.
Wow. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, well, there they are. Oh, you can't paint it any clearer than that. With velocity, you definitely cannot. So for folks that that are looking, we're following, there's one storm here with a confirmed tornado just north of Solon, and then there's one probably somewhere in here, if I had to guess, near West Branch. That's insane.
Wow.
And just kind of paralleling. The good news is, though, that both tornadoes should now be definitively north of Interstate 80. So at least we've gotten that out of the way. But then you look at, areas north and east, and I mean, this tornado warning here has been extended again all the way up into the, the Anamosa area. And that's, now this one they're calling radar indicated.
A lot of damage, looks like in Arkansas.
Yes, I saw that too.
600 injuries have been reported.
Jeez.
My goodness.
I'm going to peg the geek meter here,
Please,
as if we haven't done that already. I'm going to send you guys a tweet from one of the forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center, and we can kind of talk about this a little bit. This is the environment that the storm northwest of Memphis is moving into, and it pegs the surface to 1 kilometer storm helicity at 601 meters squared per second squared. So that tells the forecaster working on the desk at the Storm Prediction Center, when you talk about helicity like that, you're looking at how ready is the atmosphere to spin, and can it sustain supercells like this going on? And the answer unequivocally is yes. That is a dangerous environment now in western Arkansas, eastern Arkansas, and western Tennessee. And I don't see any reason why this tornado producing supercell on approach to Memphis won't continue.
Right. No, I don't either. I mean, it's got plenty of unworked environment out ahead of it. And this is the concern I had in terms, we talked about earlier that the nighttime tornadoes were going to be to the southern edge of this this essentially line of supercells that's basically coming up on the Mississippi River at this point. I do want to mention we do have a confirmed tornado near Beardstown, Illinois, moving northeast at 55. This is, I'm trying to figure out if it's an observed tornado. Emergency management confirmed, and that is a damaging tornado and tennis ball sized hail. And just to give you guys a perspective as to where this is, it's roughly north of St. Louis, just due north. Almost, in between Springfield and Quincy.
So, Matt, the tweet you're talking about is from Elizabeth there at SPC. Looks like that's the vertical wind profile and the hodograph. I mean, that is amazing. How do they do that? They're getting that from the Doppler? Is it something that comes out of that, or what? Because they didn't launch a balloon, did they?
No, my guess is that it's from the vertical wind profiler attached to the radar.
Right.
That they're getting that from. That'll take soundings. Well, there's also, don't forget, there's also a project down there called Perils, and their whole their angle of attack is to figure out how tornadoes embedded in the line, how storms embedded in a line can produce tornadoes.
Right.
So this may be sounding from them, or it may be one from the radar at Memphis. But my guess is that it's actually from the Memphis radar doing the sounding that way.
And I do want to zoom in here on this storm in Memphis, because it is going to get close. It's pretty close to the radar at this point. So we can just kind of watch it, and, well, yeah, there it is. I mean,
look
you're
at
talking
that.
a couple of miles from the radar site.
There's got to be some incredible video coming out of that area. Look at that hook on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of messy looking. Like I said, I've seen better defined in the Great Plains where it literally looks like that screaming eagle. But this is that's really something else. And those notches, that just still, I wish I understood more about what those are. Like maybe the whole thing's just trying to rotate up, and there's just all these little vortices in there, maybe.
Yeah, and they're still tagging this as a PDS tornado warning.
Sure.
So this should just skirt just north of the Memphis suburbs. I'm not going to say, for certain. Obviously, I don't know, but I'm trying to get, some kind of a confirmation here, that there's something in here. And my guess is it's going to be wherever this little blop is right there, but there's not much on the correlation coefficient, but you're getting so close to the radar site at this point.
True. But
this is the definitive. I mean, you can see the hook.
Yeah.
Like you don't need, in this sense, the correlation coefficient. Once you get into that cone of silence, so to speak, it's going to be hard to make anything out anyway, depending on how north of the Memphis Weather Forecast Office that this goes. Now,
man, that is close.
Right. Now, Matt, in this case, do you think Memphis's WFO is already evacuated?
No. Well, they would shelter in place. No, they wouldn't leave.
Well, I meant not leave, but when I mean evacuate, I mean go into their storm, say, oh, wow, look at that.
No, I don't. And the only way, and having worked in the weather service, in a weather service office during severe weather events, the only way you're going to get them to move is if there's a tornado under a mile away, because that storm shelter is steps away from the operations area in all likelihood, and they have drilled for this.
Yeah, they only need seconds to get in there.
Correct, and they only need seconds to spin up another weather service office to take their operations over. So that may be the first indication that you get of Memphis handing stuff off to maybe Nashville or back to Little Rock, because they did take over Little Rock earlier. Maybe Little Rock takes over for them again, or some other area that's not directly involved in the weather. That would be your first indication that things are about to get really nasty at that office.
So one thing to take note, that's where the radar site is, that hole right there. That's not necessarily where the National Weather Service office is, because Wilmington, our WFO is out near the airport, but the radar site is down in Brunswick County, probably 30 miles away.
Right.
Same thing here in Tampa. The National Weather Service forecast office in Tampa Bay is actually in Ruskin, and our radar is at Tampa International.
Right.
So that's about a good 25 miles, I'd say, across the bay.
I don't have all of them memorized like that. I mean, this could be where they
that's
are
the only one I
co-located.
can think of.
I know Lake Charles, Louisiana, the radar tower is right there. I saw it back in February, and we saw it after Laura blew it over. But I don't know if the radar site and the WFO office are co-located. But in any regard, that's really close. Let's do the little distance calculator.
Wow,
deal.
Look at that.
24 miles away. It seems closer.
Yeah, no, it definitely does, but excuse me, definitely does. But wow, look at that. Look at the inflow on the back side of the hook.
Wow.
Look at the RFD and what it's pushing down that way. Now, Matt, what does that tell you as a field meteorologist when you're looking at that? What is that going to tell you?
That RFD, explain that, please, sir.
Yeah, essentially. So think of the tornado as a center of low pressure. All right. So air spins in toward low pressure. So rear flank downdraft on the back side of the tornado. If you have a low pressure here, the rear flank downdraft comes in on the back side of the storm, and that is really just a ribbon of strong winds on the back side as the tornado is spinning up. Helps to localize the tornado and get it down to the ground. The helicity will do its work to get it down to the ground, but it'll help localize the air pressure to get it to come down to the ground. And some of those rear flank downdrafts, we were talking about it a minute ago. My experience on April 14th of 2012, some of those rear flank downdrafts can be 80, 90, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So very strong RF. You can't correlate a strong RFD to a tornado, a strong tornado, but I mean that one looks really like a really nasty rear flank downdraft there on the backside of that storm. Easily 50 to 60 miles an hour.
Lots of hail in there too, it looks like.
Yeah.
Wow, the presentation of this on radar is just amazing. I mean, it truthfully is, and as it crosses right now as we speak over Interstate 55. Does anybody know if, I wonder, does Arkansas's DOT?
I would guess they'd have cameras. If you're asking about that, my guess is
yeah. Let's see if we can pull something up here. And, well, there it is. Look at Arkansas. Look at them go. So, and it even tells you there's a tornado warning. How about that?
And the Storm Prediction Center does a really good job of not only issuing the broad scale outlooks, but then also issuing mesoscale discussions within the storm environment. And this is
there we go.
In the last couple of years. Do you guys have it?
Yeah. Good job,
So this
CJ.
is I-55 looking up. Hold on, they just turned the camera on us. Dang it.
They're able to pan it around.
Well, yeah. They're probably looking for the same thing we are. And if I had to guess, it's going to be back in there somewhere. Because see how it's getting lighter as things go to the left?
Yeah.
That might have might just have missed the tornado crossing I-55.
Looks like you
as a
can go
matter of
backwards
fact,
a
I
little
think that's
bit.
what it is.
You can move backwards a little bit. Look. I think this will let you scroll back.
No, it won't let me. But I'll tell you what, in there, you can see, even though it's kind of grainy, I think that's exactly where it came over Interstate 55.
Right.
You can tell, and maybe they'll keep it here. Hopefully they do. You can tell the tornado is off to the right or left here of the screen.
Yeah.
All of the clouds. I'm looking at the clouds moving.
That's what I'm watching too. You can see the sheets of rain.
Yeah.
Look at the trees as well. They're all bent over at the top, pointing in toward that tornado. It's going to tell you where it's at.
Actually, hold. Let's stay with this for a second. Because there's another darker section coming through to the right. It's coming around now.
Oh, man, look how fast everything's blowing through
Right,
there.
that's what I mean. And I mean, even though it's kind of grainy and pixelated, you can really see the detail in there.
I think that's the tornado.
It very well could be, yeah.
It's moving way too fast. That's the tornado, guys. Crossing the highway right now.
So this is looking, I believe, south from near the Terrell Travel Center on I-55 just outside of Memphis in Arkansas.
Come the rain curtains now.
Yeah.
The tornado just passed. Wow.
Talk about lucky timing.
Didn't need to see it, what was going on at the ground. All you had to do is just look at the clouds, and it told you what exactly was going on.
Exactly.
Man. Wow.
So they have, it just passed just south of this location. So yeah, that was, we saw the initial rain curtain and then the pause, and that black mass was the tornado. And right now we're caught in the RFD from this camera's location.
There was lightning. I just saw lightning.
Let me see if I can get a camera south of this location looking north. That's what we really need. There's one right here near Clarkdale Road.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Is this going to let me?
It's buffering. Doggone.
I think it's out. But it's so clear. We should be able to see this from a distance.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you they have these taken down because they're using them for the same reason.
No, my guess.
There it is. Hold on. We have traffic stopped.
That's interesting. I wonder why. Who stopped it?
It just looks like it's stopped. I can't see. There might have been an accident. I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder if the internet connection went out on it. Are you talking?
I don't know, but The traffic.
I wonder if maybe Arkansas state troopers have stopped traffic there.
I'm not sure.
They're just starting to go again.
And I just want to also reiterate that this tornado warning has been extended as a PDS tornado warning for south central Mississippi County and eastern Arkansas, northeastern Crittenden County, western Tipton County in West Tennessee, northern Shelby County in West Tennessee, and that's until 6 p.m. Central Time. At 5:22, a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado was located near Gilmore, 9 miles west of Meeman Shelby Forest State Park, moving east at 50. At 5:22, spotter confirmed tornado just south of Terrell near I-55.
That was the tornado we watched just a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cross.
Let's go back to the Terrell traffic camera here, and then I'll see if I can pull up. There's the backside of the wall cloud.
Yeah.
It's still wild, just moving. It's just moving. Wow. So yeah, that had to have just went through that location. Trying to see what else is on the other side of this in terms of interstates, or that might be like in Tennessee. So it's going to pan over to the left. Come on, guys. Keep whoever's at Arkansas DOT.
Yeah.
It's like they can hear us.
Right.
Just keep panning left. Pan left.
By the way, CJ, great call.
Yeah.
On the tornado coming from screen left to screen right. Excellent call on your part, because I had it pegged as being on the right side of the camera, and it was all you.
You know, it definitely I mean, you could see the rain curtains, like you said. You pointed that out too. The rain curtains just blowing in, and you could tell. And you know, for those of you that have never been out in the field chasing this, tornadoes, just like hurricanes, they have a defined wind pattern, right? Because it's a low center, low pressure. So you can tell when a tornado, when you know the path, and this is the beautiful thing about having a tornado being on such small scale, that you generally know the path that it's coming from, right? So if you know which way the tornado is moving, even if you don't know which way the camera is pointing, you just need to look at the winds, and that'll tell you the whole story. That helps you pinpoint. And I'm sure you've used that same technique out in the field when you don't know which way is up when it's pouring down rain.
Oh, Fox Weather is showing the same shot that we're looking at right now, by the way.
That's awesome. Yeah, wow.
And it's
wow.
right over Terrell, Arkansas. My goodness.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look quickly at
signature.
the radar. As it moves over the Mississippi River here in a matter of minutes into Tennessee. So it's going to be leaving Arkansas, moving across the Mississippi River into Tennessee, and I'm wondering if this highway here may or may not, I'm not sure if Tennessee has decent traffic cameras. Not every state does. Florida's not one of the better ones. So I'm not sure about Tennessee, though.
Used to be.
So let's look. Yeah, not anymore.
My goodness.
Let's see what I can find. Where did Firefox go? There it is. So, let's see. Okay. So it looks kind of similar to the one we just did last time. Come on, go away. Sorry, Mark.
By the way, just address the other elephant in the room. There's a lot of talk about this already with the changes happening on Twitter. It's just not good. I mean, the verification stuff and people posing as fake weather service accounts now, and weather service and different media saying they're not going to be paying for the verification. We're not going to know who's tweeting what. Twitter was a wonderful application to get stuff out to a lot of people. I know that not every American is on Twitter. More people are on TikTok than are on Twitter. It's like a third of America is on TikTok, but just a real bummer. It really is, and I'm seeing people talk about it now. You know, whatever. Sad commentary as to where that has gone, because Twitter has just been fantastic, and it looks like it's really going to be a problem because once they stop the verification thing, Wall Street Journal, LA Times, New York Times, elsewhere, they're like, we're not paying for the verification thing because everybody is going to be verified, and it's not just an elitist celebrity thing. Anybody could be HurricaneTrack and get a verification because they paid $8.
Right.
So anyway, that's going to become more of a problem as we get into April, and sadly, that's when the severe weather is just going to ramp up more and more.
Right. So I can't get a good camera out of Tennessee, unfortunately. There's none up along that US 51 corridor. But I do want to reiterate that is where this is heading. So there are populated. Oh wow! Look at
that.
Look at the debris ball.
Wow, Matt! My goodness.
So, yeah, if you're along this interstate, or not interstate, US Highway 51 from about Covington, Tennessee, down to Millington. I mean, this is going to be a rough ride for a little bit here. It's just about to cross the Mississippi River, just about.
And while it's crossing the Mississippi River, that's a water spout.
Yep. Yes, it is.
So, yeah, that is no mistake in there. Again, we talked about it earlier with the Iowa City storm near Iowa City. That's a no doubter right there, northwest of Millington there with the debris ball signature and very tight rotation moving
right.
northeast.
I mean, this is just incredible. I want to take a second here. I'm looking on my phone. I want to see what's going on with some of these other storms out there and see if we have any other. So the tornado warning for that that cell that we had been following in Iowa that was finally canceled.
Velocity on this storm north of Memphis,
just wow,
119 to 82. I have 125 knots against 82. So just an impressive tornado now has made it across the Mississippi River. It's going to stay comfortably north of Memphis, but I think that this shows the environment. Regardless of however many storms we get, the storms that we do have here later this evening are going to be very powerful and capable of producing strong, violent, long-track tornadoes, as this one continues to do and crossed near the Terrell area here about 10 minutes ago.
Look at that.
Wow.
That's just wow.
And as we're keeping up on this tornado near Memphis, there is a confirmed tornado on the ground near Jacksonville, Illinois. This is in Menard, Cass, and Morgan counties in Illinois. Just kind of going through these just to see what's what. So I apologize. It's just taking a little longer than I hoped.
There's a lot of information out there today from the Weather Service, and a lot of stuff to get through. It's not like you have a small area where you can just hone in on 2 or 3 Weather Service offices and
exactly
get a lay of it. You have to have like 10 or 12 of them today at least that are being impacted. While we're talking about the severe weather down to the south, there's a blizzard warning in effect for Minneapolis.
Yeah.
For I think 6 to 12 inches of snow forecasted there overnight tonight into Saturday. So as we've talked about all afternoon, very impressive late March, early April storm that will impact.
Yeah, big mid-latitude cyclone, man. Huge. I know, Matt, you got to bail out soon, and we're going to roll this up ourselves at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This was more of a test, an opportunity to do stuff under live fire conditions, so to speak, especially when we get into hurricane season. Matt and CJ will be really taking the helm in the day before landfall and then the day of landfall, because at that point, of course, we're going to have our network of cameras, our weather stations, and we'll integrate a lot of our products in. So it was a real good test today. Matt's got to go, I think. And then CJ and I will wrap things up at 7 p.m. Of course, the severe weather doesn't quit at 7, but we appreciate the people tuning in and watching our little show here. We know that there's a lot of it out there on social media, an amazing thing. So thanks for joining in, and Matt, thanks for helping out today.
No problem. You guys have a good evening. Everybody stay safe east of the Rockies.
I like that. It's an Art Bell saying.
Yes, east of the Rockies. I remember listening to Art Bell way back when. I listened to your interview with him post pre-Hurricane Katrina live, and then I went back and listened to it again. That was impressive. But yeah, just everybody stay safe. It's
not over yet.
Yeah, not over yet.
No, that it is not.
Still to come.
Well, Harding, have a good weekend yourself. Thanks a lot, man. We'll look forward to doing this a few more times before the season starts, and then during the season, you guys are in for some phenomenal wall-to-wall coverage from our team here on the back end of HurricaneTrack.
Yes, absolutely. You guys have a great evening. Mark, CJ, hope to see you guys soon, or we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Be out here in this part of the world here sooner rather than later.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See you guys
have
later.
a good one, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Bye.
All right. So, well, Mark, it looks like, this storm just don't want to quit. Just to put it as simple as possible. I mean, you got that this next scan that's going to come in here. Yeah, this next scan that'll come in here in a moment. I just saw it pop up on my phone. I mean, just the incredible velocity couplet is just like I don't have any words for it. This is borderline, what we saw last week.
Yeah, look there.
That storm that went through Rolling Fork. I mean, you're just wow. You got like almost 2. It's almost like it's being eclipsed into itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just remarkable.
And the mechanisms that cause this, that allow it to happen, are still so not understood. There's just so much going on every second, so much energy, so much dynamics going on that we're lucky to be able to see it on radar like this to try to at least get out of the way or take shelter. But even in 2023, there's a lot we still don't understand.
Yeah, this is true. And a lot of people don't realize, tornado genesis is still not exactly something really well understood. We can look at, cyclogenesis when it comes to hurricanes and, mid-latitude cyclones. We have I think at this point, a basic understanding. But then when it comes to tornado genesis, we still don't know what makes these storms tick. Why is it this supercell that's going to produce a tornado, but not every single one that forms does? And that's something that we really need to understand in order to forecast them in the future. And you had talked about utilizing video to do so. I know of another YouTuber that's always out there chasing, Hank Shima, who I follow. His name is Pecos Hank. He's really into the tornado aspect of stuff, and I think he had worked with somebody, I believe at the University of Wisconsin it was, and they were utilizing his field video to kind of compare and contrast these storms that they were building essentially in a supercomputer when they were running their models to model these storms, and they could see things that they would see on the ground that could verify that ground truth with with that video. You can essentially match it up frame for frame.
That's
and
interesting.
I think video is really something that's underestimated or underutilized when it comes to these storms. Because there's things that we aren't necessarily paying attention to whenever we, we're out in the field, because there's so much going on, right?
Sure.
There's so much going on out there, and not only that, you're trying not to get killed, right?
Right.
So there's always the people you have to pay attention to, as well as I like to use Twister. It's my favorite movie, the flying cows.
Yes.
You got to pay attention to what's going on around you. So you're not, necessarily paying attention in large detail to when, a good example is, when you're coming back and you're looking over this stuff later on. I use the example of, I felt like for like the first week after Hurricane Ian come through, I was discovering something new every day.
Yeah.
That I didn't notice the day before, like a new piece of damage I just didn't see, because you're so, overtaken by the moment. And that video is helpful to go back and say, wow, we can actually see this mechanism working. And, also it's air, so not everything is visible.
That's why I think having multiple cameras set up across about a 2-mile stretch, live, because people want to see it live, of course, but especially the high resolution GoPro cameras running at 4K, as many of them as we can do. And that's what we want to do. Like tornadoes at close range using unmanned cameras, whatever acronym we can come up with that driving into them with armored vehicles, as several people have tried over the years. Hey, more power to you. I think, a network of them, you see the supercell come, we talked about this a couple hours ago or whatever. I think that'll work. It's hard. You got to be on the right one at the right time, but if it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. And so I'm looking forward to trying that and laying down these little spike strips or whatever you want to call it of cameras, not to slow the tornado down. That's what a spike strip does to a fleeing criminal, of course. But, we might just see something, especially when you run it in time lapse. You see it from multiple angles.
Right.
And then, donating that video, say, here, give it to the University of Wisconsin and see what they can do with it.
Right.
You get enough of it, and that's what you call a database.
Exactly. And, every one of these tornadoes, every one of these storms is different, and they all have their own unique characteristics. Just kind of looking at this storm here, you can really see that inflow jet on the backside coming in here now. It's amazing. And the fact that this is basically out by itself, out in front of the main line.
Right.
I mean, look, there's nothing around it. What's to stop it?
Right. I want to try something. Let me jump over to Google Maps real quick. Look at our Fox Lake camera starting to look interesting.
Wow.
Let's go.
There's that shelf cloud.
Google Maps. Let's look at Memphis. And we'll go to the satellite. So that tornado warned storm is moving through roughly this area through here. And, you've got some population in there, just a little bit. It's not dense like Memphis proper.
Right.
But just kind of getting an idea of where is this moving through? Let's zoom in. Generally speaking, it's going through this area through here. Try to draw again. Oh, the Memphis Police Training Academy is right in the way of it, potentially. Certainly better than moving through Memphis proper.
Yeah, downtown Memphis.
Yeah, but you do have there's an airport over here. There's Highway 3 going more north. Maybe it's more north through here, but these are neighborhoods through here. This thing to pop
people's lives,
and they're all home probably. There's greenhouse through here, churches, a lot of churches out there, elementary school right there, this neighborhood.
Right.
So let's go back.
I'm looking at, don't mean to cut you off, but the National Weather or the Storm Prediction Center put out another mesoscale discussion. This is covering Middle Tennessee, northwestern or northeastern Mississippi rather, and northern Alabama. And they are saying that they're going to be issuing a tornado watch within the hour downstream of the PDS Watch 94, and that they expect the environment to become increasingly favorable for tornadoes, a few of which may be strong. Upstream SRH profiles observed in Memphis indicate 0 to 1 kilometer shear around 560 meters squared per second squared, and that, large curving photographs will support the potential for long track supercells with risks of strong tornadoes. And that environment will translate downstream into the Middle Tennessee and northern Mississippi and Alabama areas over the next 1 to 3 hours. So you still have, like I said earlier, this is going to be a later into the evening thing for our friends in Nashville. And there's not any, insignificant areas of population that are at risk. That's Nashville,
right?
Bowling Green, Huntsville, Birmingham.
All right, so there's Fox Lake. This is where we have a camera
right
here. Nothing too scary coming in. Maybe some heavier rain. No lightning showing up in these.
I have your lightning turned off because
Okay.
otherwise we wouldn't be able to see
That's true.
anything.
Yeah, lightning and storm tracks, it will definitely clutter it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Fox Lake right there. And this is what our camera looks like in Fox Lake right now. A little bit of wind, a little bit more on there. It'll be interesting to see if this gets rustled up.
Right.
But back down south to Memphis there, north of Memphis. KNQA. Wow, look at that.
Wow. Oh my God.
Mostly rural areas through there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this is you're talking far northern reaches of the Memphis like urban area. I want to see.
But there's still people there. I mean, look, you get to,
Oh yeah.
there's a Hampton Inn up there, so this highway.
This is a
51.
tornado emergency for Dixonville, Drummonds, and Gilt Edge, is what it says. So they've made this a tornado emergency for that region.
For good reason.
And yeah, for good reason. And they have the tornado damage threat listed as catastrophic. So, and again, this is all radar confirmed, and this is a problem we see down in the south. You don't have a lot of chasers because it's just not open.
Right.
But this is where spotters help. They give you that help there with confirming, is there something here. Obviously, in this case, we know it's there. It's kind of hard to miss. And there's a pretty large debris ball in there too, on the correlation coefficient. So if you'll allow me for a sec,
Yeah, go ahead.
bring that up. So people can see, what we're talking about there. I mean, it's not a deep drop because it just came over the water, but it's there. Where did I just see it? It is kind of losing it a bit, but it's right in here. And that'll, again, because as we talked about before, it's kind of open. A lot of these are open fields down in the the Mississippi area or Mississippi Valley. Some of the best farmland in the country. But wow, I mean, you can literally see the rain coming into it. Amazing.
We got about 12 minutes, then we're going to wrap up our coverage. Again, we're just kind of testing things out. A good live fire, real life event, in real life, as they say. There's a lot of people covering this stuff on social media, from some of the very well-known powerhouse YouTube channels to what we're doing here. Really just getting practice in for hurricane season. CJ and Matt will definitely be working that when we have our equipment set up and so forth. So this has been a good practice for that. Glad I could jump on. But we got about 12 more minutes at 7 p.m. Eastern. CJ and I will roll things up, as they say, and go about our evening plans.
Absolutely. So I'm just taking a look at some of our YouTube messages, kind of going back. If this will let me. So we have nothing crazy. Nothing really in here right this moment. I'm going to look on Facebook, and then I'm also going to check our Discord server as well. See if anybody's talking, what they're questioning about, and if anybody has questions. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of, reiterate, we have that tornado emergency just north of Memphis for the very far northern suburbs.
Right.
I mean, we knew today was going to be bad. We just don't know where it's going to be, exactly where it's going to be bad.
Right.
And, it's lived up to its expectations, in my opinion. I think that, today was well forecasted, well, advertised. I'm glad that they had that moderate risk out yesterday. And then today, this is the first high risk day since 2021. And I can't stress enough that, people that are in the path of this, they need to be taking their precautions. That's really, when you're in a high risk day, Personally, I've only ever been in one, and thank God for us, it turned out to be a nothing burger. But, you know, in the deep south and up into Iowa and Illinois, you know, this isn't something to play around with. And we knew that coming into it. I mean, the conditions were favorable. We just didn't know where or how bad it was going to be.
Yeah, as good as the technology is, the forecasting and so forth, you know, you're still dealing with something that's way more powerful than you are. And they're amazing to look at, but boy, they're just tornadoes. I mean, some people have bad dreams about tornadoes. They really do. And I think it goes back to sort of a primal fear of things that can hurt us as humans. I think it's probably deep in our DNA.
I believe there is actually a phobia linked to tornadoes, if I'm not mistaken either.
Yeah, snakes and spiders, and for me it's lightning. Lightning scares me more than anything.
As it should.
Sure, no warning. I don't care what they say about the hair stands up. It's not like I get 3 minutes. Oh, my hair stood up. I've got 3 minutes to get inside. Nope. Your hair stands up and it's too late.
You're dead. Right. So I'm just kind of looking as well. I wanted to give some people an update on power outages. Pulaski County, which is the county in Arkansas where Little Rock is located, there are 221,000 customers tracked on poweroutage.us, and 53,000 of those are without power.
Yikes.
And just kind of zooming out here, you have 93,000 overall without power in the state of Arkansas. Now, these are customer numbers, not individual people.
Sure.
28,000 in Colorado. So might want to check on Matt out there in Denver. Make sure he still has power. 23,000 in Oklahoma, 22,000 in Missouri, and 21,000 in Iowa that are without power. And you're going to see this continue to spread across as the storms move east. I think tomorrow you're going to see a lot of power outages in the Appalachians and into the Northeast with all of those high wind advisories and wind warnings.
Yep, real quick look here as we start to wind down our coverage. That's the national map, and I'm just going to telestrate on it for a second here. Tomorrow, everything shifts east. We got a slight risk up here, and then we have a slight risk down here for tomorrow. I'll show you that on SPC in just a moment. But all of this brown in here, that's wind. And even down in my neck of the woods, we have a wind advisory. So, you know, take it easy out there. Remember, this is a huge weather system. Blizzard warnings and winter storm up north. The severe weather in the warm sector. Windy on the backside with fire weather being a problem. And then the big time wind out in front of this system. And then again tomorrow, look at the SPC here. This is today and this is tomorrow. Pretty big population areas up here that will be affected by tomorrow's version of today's big time mid-latitude spring storm system.
Absolutely. And, you know, I kind of wanted to point out, when do you ever see on a normal day, you know, a blizzard warning and or a winter weather advisory and then a tornado watch bordering each other on the map? I mean, that's just how powerful and how
very
dynamic
unusual,
and how
very
active.
Strange, but it's, you know, it's part of, I think, what we're going to be seeing as we get more into April and May expand. And from the precipitation, precip side, I hope we get more out here because they really need it. Matt was talking about that. But, of course, with that, you usually don't get just good old boring stratiform rain. Unfortunately, you get these, it's either drought or flood or tornadoes or something. There's never a good balance. That's what weather is.
Like us down here. It's hurricanes or droughts. That's really where we're at.
The weather's trying to be in balance. That's what weather is. It's the balance of heat and cold, all caused by the sun. But it never gets there, so you get these violent transitions, and we're just in the way down here on the surface of this great planet of ours.
Exactly. There's nothing that we can do but, you know, prepare and be ready for it when it comes knocking. I wonder.
2 polygons down here.
Look. Yeah, they probably extended that north and east.
Looks like it's trying to separate or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's
something. Man, if there was 2 of them.
That'd be something. I don't know if I'd want to be in the path of it. Let's see here. I want to see what it looks like on velocity.
It's all yours.
I mean, it's nothing. Still looks impressive on velocity. But yeah, you know what? It looks like this little section down here near Covington is also
Right.
rotating. But I mean, you have this main area of rotation. It could be getting ready to drop. And I mean, we're also getting the interference from the Conus Islands here. So once this gets a little bit further away from the radar, it should look a little bit better in terms of presentation. But it looks like the tornado would be either right here or right here.
Well, I mean, I think it just updated. There's like 2 of them now. That's incredible. Wow. That little guy down there near Brighton. My goodness.
Yeah, that is the main circulation right now. And it looks like there's another, it looks like it's cycling. Yeah, so I want to point that out. There's the main circulation, and I need to turn this over to, try this. Maybe storm relative velocity will give us a bit cleaner image. Okay, there we go. That's a better view. Unfortunately, you get just too much interference. So here's our main circulation here. That's obvious. That's the tornado. And then you have another more broad mesocyclone out here that it looks like it's going to, most likely, if I had to guess, this is going to kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not eclipse, but there's a special term for it when it comes up and it basically gets wrapped into this new rotation.
Occlude?
Occlude, that's it. I almost said occult, and I'm like, no, wait, no, this isn't werewolves or vampires.
Right.
I knew there was a word for it. Started with an O. But what this will do, this will occlude up in here, and then most likely this will be that new rotation area back there will be where the storm starts to concentrate its rotation. And that's what you expect out of a cyclical supercell.
Right.
And I mean, this has been on the ground for a while. I kind of want to point that out too. I mean, this has been on the ground for a good probably 70 miles, if I had to guesstimate. So let's go. So it started way back here by Wynn. So yeah, what is that? 67.2?
Yeah, that's getting there,
that was
man.
close. So yeah, I mean that's still a pretty hefty, track, and we knew that. We knew today we were going to have long track tornadoes. So
Lots of pictures coming out from.
Do you want to go through and show some more before we wrap up, since we're getting really close?
Do that real quick. Our friend here from Fox Weather, Will Nunley, damage there. Park in Arkansas. He's probably going to be live on Fox Weather soon. Don't forget, we work with Fox Weather, and they have a great app, and they're on YouTube, and their app is just fantastic. Go to the App Store on your device of choice. You see myself.
I would definitely suggest.
Will Nunley, everybody else. Yes, sir.
Wow, look at that.
I
would definitely suggest. That is the one up in Iowa. That was the Tool tornado. Look at the mesocyclone on that, and that right-hand tornado.
And
wow.
The contrast of everything, it looks like it's winter.
It does.
My goodness.
No, what I was going to say is definitely check out Fox Weather. I've personally really enjoyed their coverage. I've watched a lot of their coverage, and they're doing a phenomenal job with it, especially including people that we know and we follow.
Yep.
In the weather community. It's not just, big names on the from the legacy media, and a lot of their people, believe it or not, came from local stations.
Yeah.
They didn't come from, I know one of them, I think his name's Ian.
Yeah.
Ian is on there. He came from our local TV station, WFLA in Tampa. So when they had, when we had Hurricane Ian coming through, they're able to lend that expertise, from working in local weather. So it's definitely one of my favorite media outlets to pay attention to during these types of events.
Well, you'll see a lot of what we do on Fox Weather going forward, whether it be tornado season, especially from mid-April on. Like I said a little while ago, I'm not out there today. I've got too much going on getting ready for conference season. Got spring break vacation with the family coming up week after next. But once we get to mid-April through mid-June, that'll be my target for lots of action out on the plains. I've already shipped a bunch of equipment out to Texas in preparation for that. We'll also be targeting South Dakota. Brant Beckman up there at the TV station in Rapid City told me all about the supercells and the motherships that you get up there, especially in late May into June. They move slower. and so forth, very picturesque. And we've got an interesting project, where we're trying to get close range with unmanned camera systems anchored to whatever we can get these things to anchor to. Matt in Colorado has been helping out with that. Good team effort to cover severe weather. A lot of storm chasers, so it's hard to stick out and do something different. I think we've got a good plan to at least augment what's already being done and see how it works out. So that'll all start happening once we get to mid-April. But look, next week we're going to have to do this again, unfortunately, it looks like. I will talk about that on Monday on the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion Off-Season Edition, the nice weekly recap and look ahead of what's coming. That'll be on Monday. So you guys have a good weekend. I appreciate you tuning into our live coverage. Again, mostly a practice run, dipping our toes into the world of hosted, narrated live coverage of severe weather events, but it'll be really useful for hurricane season. I assure you, this practice will really help for that. CJ, anything else you want to add before we switch the switch to off?
Nope, no, sir. I don't have anything that I think I can add other than, thank you so much for letting me work with you guys, Mark, on this. And, I really enjoy it. And, I just want people out there to stay safe.
Well, I appreciate Cornelius. He knows who he is, making this so it'll even work in the first place. So thanks to Mike down in Orlando for making it to where we could even do this. And, he didn't have to come on once and do anything. It all worked.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing.
We're getting there.
Yes. All right. Well, CJ, I'll let you do the stop and all that part. I'm going to roll out of here, and you have a good weekend yourself. And
You too.
I'll see everybody on Monday.